Welcome to the Pesky Report, episode 499. We are brought to you by Beyond the Monster. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell. It is the minor league show. I'm here with Hunter, and we have a special guest. I thought that it was the first two-time guest in minor league show history. I was corrected that we actually did have David Sandlin on a second time, but I wasn't on the first time. But we're thrilled to be joined by Greenville Drive manager Liam Carroll, who joined us last year when he was the Salem Red Sox manager. He got promoted. Like, promotions happen with the players and they happen with the managers too. So welcome to the show, Liam. We're so thrilled to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks so much. It's very exciting to be back, Jake.
Well, we've got a bunch of questions for you. I guess I'll start out by asking you, we talked to you last year when you were with Salem. I think it was relatively early in the season. It was maybe only about a month into the year. I'll ask you just about, the off season, how you kind of found out about what was going to happen with you, your plan, the change in role for you in the organization. How did they tell you? What was your reaction when they said you're going to be moving up? Like, what was that like? I'm just really curious.
Very cool. It was unexpected. I was originally going back to Salem and was excited to do so. I thought we had a really good season last year, and you kind of start to identify ways to really improve the operation. And then with the changes that trickle down all the way from the top, with Flo getting a big league job, moving up from AAA, and then Iggy moving from Greenville to AAA. This job was open. So very exciting to be considered for this role. Abe's, our director of player development, called me, and it was an easy yes.
And so the I guess I probably should have looked into this a little bit more. Was how different is the staff this year for Greenville compared to last year? Or did you have folks that came up from Salem? What is the sort of makeup of your staff like?
There's a balance. It's quite similar to the last lots of years, with Bob Kipper still the pitching coach. JP Fasone returns as the hitting coach. Tyler Snap, in a slightly different role, returns. He's the assistant hitting coach and coaches catchers and coaches first base. And then I think everybody else is new strength. Actually, no, Dan Rosen returns as the head strength coach. His assistant new, athletic trainer new. That's Kelsey Brandstetter, her assistant new. So lots of turnover in those seasonal assistant roles.
And before I'll turn it over to Hunter to ask the next question, but just in terms of the difference in the levels, in terms of, do you find that there's a different expectation for the players in high A compared to low A? Is it more, is there more of an expectation that, hey, you've moved up to this next level, so we have more of an expectation of your results at this level, compared to, obviously there's development at every level of the minors, but is there more expectation in high A that there's going to be results in what you're doing on the field compared to, say, low A, which for a lot of guys is their especially guys that get drafted, it's their first taste of professional ball?
I think there's a variation there depending on the experience of the player. I don't find there to be a huge difference overall. We still are very much focused on the development. I don't think there's a huge jump personally in like the caliber of play, for example. It is still very, very difficult to succeed here. I think the biggest expectation change I've seen is the expectation that players are just more professional. They've had that experience in Salem about how they're learning to conduct themselves as a professional. It's not that they necessarily have all of the answers as far as what their routine looks like, but they display more ownership, and I guess there's a shorter rope for making sure that they do kind of handle their business.
Go ahead, Hunter.
Something interesting about minor league managers, minor league coaches in general, is you usually don't get to watch the players grow, improve all that much, just because, especially in the lower levels, there's times where they'll be on your team for 2 months and they're up to the next level, and you never get to see them play again live. You have this unique perspective where you've been coaching for the most part the same group of people for 2 years now. Like Franklin Arias spent the end of last year, Nazan Zanatello, Antonio Anderson. I could go through basically the entire team. What has that been like? Has that been a unique situation where you're kind of something that Jake alluded to, where each level is slightly different? You're doing different things, and you're kind of now coaching these guys in maybe a slightly different way than you were last year, where last year, Franklin Arias, for example, you had him focusing on one thing. And now this year it's like, okay, now you're at a new level. Let's do this, that, and the other thing. What has that been like? And has that been a challenge for you to um, be coaching these guys through their developmental years longer than most coaches would get to?
Yeah, by and large, it's been fantastic. Especially you referenced Franklin Arias as a great example. What a cool thing it is to get to watch him play baseball every day. Um, when I accepted this position, at first just very excited. Everyone raves about Greenville, the town, the people, the stadium, the front office, and it lives up to the hype. But there was then that trepidation where, oh boy, things in Salem were really good. I don't think you ever get comfortable in this industry. I think that's a dangerous thing, but very confident in Salem and building on it for 2025. And then, oh boy, it's going to be an entirely new staff. Um, the positive for me, thinking about it more, was, well, I have a lot of familiarity with these players. They were a ton of fun to be around last year in Salem. And how cool will it be for me to get to continue to see their development? And then specific to the development and continuing to build trust and really try and push the envelope with players being willing to try things that are different. The more time you spend with them, as long as the relationship is in a good place, I think the easier it is to create that buy-in. And Franklin, again, has been a great example where not only is he incredibly talented, but he is incredibly driven. He's incredibly curious. He does not settle. He gets really angry at himself when he makes mistakes. So he's kind of the perfect person to have that good relationship with, because we can continue to push the envelope. So by and large, it's been really fun to be around the same players.
Um, with that though, there has been a lot of new players that you did not get to coach last year. Obviously, Payton Tolle spent the first 2 months of the season in High A. Players like Brandon Clark have been there. Is there someone specifically that you've coached this year and not last year that has really stood out to you? Maybe not like the biggest name, not someone like Payton Tolle, who like obviously is now a top 100 prospect and everything. But is there someone who you feel like newer to the system that you feel has not gotten the recognition that they deserve from the fan base, from the media, whoever it is?
I think players that spring to mind, and focusing on the position player side, just having so much more involvement with that group. Um, One slightly different would be Joffrey Rodriguez, who obviously we acquired in a trade, so wouldn't have coached him last year anyway. But he's a lot of fun, and you understand the kind of the underlying traits that the front office found so enticing when making that decision. It's real. It's a lot of fun to watch. And this year I coach infielders and outfielders. So watching him work so hard to improve some things has been a ton of fun. And then recently arrived after recovering from an injury, Will Turner, who I had not met last year. Incredibly athletic, again, very driven, kind of relentless in his routine. In some ways, reminds me of Roman Anthony, where he shows up and wants to do his thing and revise and improve his thing daily. He's been a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah, Rodriguez is someone who's really stood out to me as watching the games. I feel like he's played much better than the stats have shown, and it's been a little frustrating to watch the fan perspective of him going from like everyone was really excited when he first came here, and he mashed for the first like 2 weeks, and then he went through that prolonged slump, and it was like the swing still looks good. He's making hard contact. He's playing good in the field. And it's been really nice to see him. He's on now, I think it's like a 12-game hitting streak, 13 if you count the suspended game. And it's good to see fans starting to get excited about him again, because he is one of those players that when you watch him really sticks out to you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and just really working to hit the ball in the air more, especially to the pull side, which is, as we all know, a Red Sox thing, if not an industry thing. Um, and he's worked so hard too to just become more physical. And he did, seeing him come back from the break where it feels like it's been longer than 4 days, but dude, you're big, and just the ball is jumping off his bat, and BP looks better, and it's hard to put that all together with the caliber of pitching that we face, which is continues to be ridiculous. But it shows up, and it shows up a little bit more frequently, and there's more loud outs, and then occasionally it all comes together, like it did a few nights ago, where he hits a game-winning home run in the top of the ninth inning.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. I wanted to ask you, Hunter mentioned Payton Tolle, who is obviously now with the Sea Dogs and is doing is has been one of the highest sort of rising prospects in terms of his stature within the game over the course of this season. He obviously started this year in Greenville. Not only did he start this year in Greenville, but it was also the beginning of his professional career, having been drafted last year and not and going right from not pitching professionally to going right to high A to start his professional career. And I wanted to ask you specifically about Payton Tolle's first professional outing was a bad one. He gave up 6 runs in an inning and a third. He didn't get out of the second inning, and I I wanted to ask you about what was how did he take that outing? And because clearly, if there were adjustments or things that happened after that, they worked because he's had a few bumps in the road since then. But for the most part, he's been one of the most dominant pitchers in the minor leagues since then. I just want to ask you about his reaction to that outing, and like whatever his reaction was and what happened later. What did that tell you about him as a professional?
Yeah, he was pissed, really, really pissed off. But there was almost, you have to ask him whether it was humor, but like when you go out to get the ball from him, it's one of the, like, what do you say? Like everybody knows it wasn't good. And there was a comment he made like, well, that wasn't so good. Um, and so maybe he was just telling the truth, or it was a little bit sarcastic. Um, And at that stage, I didn't know Peyton very well. Didn't spend a ton of time with him during spring training. Just see him pitch, and okay, that's pretty impressive. And spring training was really good, and I think that that performance cemented the decision for him to start the season in high A rather than low A. So I don't know him very well. He had a rough outing, and it wasn't just the pitching. There was you got to declare if you're going to be stretch or wind up with a runner at third base, depending on the angle of your setup and whatnot, and he got dinged for that. So it was just bad. Um, all I really know is what some friends in the industry had said about him, college recruiters that said this he's the real deal. And the makeup and the personality is there. And sure enough, just how he responds is incredibly positive. And he is he is having a tremendous amount of fun. I saw in your intro video, you've got him in the dugout with the celebration piece for a homer. He's having fun all the time, and he's even having fun as he comes back after that rough start with the umpires, with letting them know with very big mannerisms that he's pitching out of the windup, and just the whole thing uh, became a lot of fun. And I think you see it in the struts, you see it in the smile, the way he walks after strikeouts and coming into the inning or after the inning, and then also how he is when he's not pitching. Meanwhile, between starts, he's just stacking these incredibly impressive days of work. Like it's easy to assume just because someone's big that they enjoy the weight room. That's not always the case. He absolutely crushes the weight room. He is in the training room not just because something feels sore, but to do things that will help his body recover and improve between his starts. He is incredibly coachable. He wants to try new things. He wants to make what he can do even better, and is just a fierce competitor. And maybe it was a case that first day, as is not incredibly rare. Just made it bigger than it was, which was a baseball game, albeit in Red Sox land. It was just another baseball game. And watching him since, it was just another baseball game, and he competed his tail off, and it became a lot of fun to watch. So maybe that first outing was helpful. Maybe he'd be in Double A now, even if he struck out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that first day. But it is impressive, yet not a surprise at all that he rebounded, having got to know him since.
We talked a little bit about Yoferi Rodriguez. We touched on Will Turner, but the outfield in general, there's just been an embarrassment of riches for you all year. Zach Earhart was there for a little bit. Nelly Taylor, Miguel Bleis. How has that been trying to navigate getting all these guys in? Has that been difficult? Is it something where like, do you have set days, positions for them? Or is it kind of just like feeling out like, hey, Rodriguez is on a hot streak. He's gonna play 5 times this week.
It's been so much fun. It is an embarrassment of riches, to use the perfect term. Um, the biggest challenge is trying to get the off day in the middle of the week, which is optimal for all of them, which is just impossible with that many outfielders that are going to receive kind of priority playing time, which is for us, for the most part, 5 games a week. So well, we're given kind of a framework from player development leadership as far as how many games a week, how many games at each position a week. And then our job as managers is to kind of solve that puzzle on a Monday. What's it going to look like for the week, and who's going to play, or who's going to get that day off on the optimal Thursday or Friday, rather than play and then get a day off and then have to play 5 in a row, or in some cases just have to play 5 in a row out of the gate. And then that sucks because they get Sunday and Monday off, and you get concerned about timing and things from sitting for an extended period of time. But a really cool problem to have. Um, uh, you see more DHs out of those guys than you typically would, just because we have to find ways to make sure they get the ABs. Um, and I mean, I maybe in a different organization, any one of those guys plays almost exclusively center field. But it's just not going to happen because they can all do it, and they can all do it pretty well.
I mean, the pitchers have to love it just from a defensive standpoint. There's not there's not much dropping in that
100%.
outfield.
Exactly. Yeah. Chances are when it goes up there, it's going to get caught. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Let me ask you about let's stick on the outfield. Somebody that you have spent a lot of time with is Miguel Bleis, and I think that as Red Sox fans, as people that have followed the system for a while, there have been a lot of peaks and valleys with following him. Obviously, he has a very significant injury. He has surgery. He misses a major portion of the season. He comes back, and he's now, I remember when we talked to you last year, I think it was right around the time he was about to be promoted. He had really showed that he had mastered low A. He gets promoted up to Greenville. And I think that if you look across the board this year, he has been better, statistically speaking. If you at least look at the back of the baseball card statistics, the stuff that we as fans have regular access to, he's been better across the board compared to his time in Greenville last year. But we haven't seen this like breakthrough that I think a lot of folks were maybe expecting with Bleis to have happened at this point, especially after his injury. And I think there's maybe some questions of like, when is he going to make it up to Double A, and what is his sort of the big picture with him? Can you tell us what you've seen this year from him compared to your time with him last year in Salem? And what do you think he needs to do to really make it like jump up to the next level? Just not talking about going to Double A, but just to jump up to the next level as a baseball player and maybe fulfill that potential that was really expected of him a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it's sustained consistency, which he sort of discovered in Salem, and that earned him the promotion to Greenville. He's had stretches here that have been absolutely incredible. The multi-homer games and just everything barreled. And then he's got cold. I think Miguel often tries to do far too much. Um, He is a player that is so incredibly gifted. His play in the outfield has always been spectacular, but this season he has been so consistent. Um, and his throwing decisions, for example, are what you'd expect of an elite big league outfielder, or even just an average big league outfielder that does really well at preventing extra 90s. He is one of the elite outfielders in all of baseball, and it's actually an incredible comparison to Rafaela. Um, and another player who was searching for consistency offensively, and it looks like he's found it. So I think Bleis is kind of following that similar path, and I do see so many of these players that are incredibly gifted that try to do too much. I think Nelly Taylor's another one that often tries to do too much. Whether that's the weight of expectations or their own expectations for themselves, I don't know. But when we've seen Miguel just be himself, is when it's been extraordinary. And he continues to mature. He continues to show up to the park every day and want to get better. Really discover his routines in the cages and understand when he's going to really get after it and work on developing bat speed. In those other days where just need to make sure I'm ready for the game, because it is a grind and you can't necessarily go full throttle before the game starts all year. So he's finding his way, and every confidence that he will continue to find his way in the box. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping he gets out of here. I think there's nobody other than himself that love to see it than me. Just having seen him now for 3 seasons in a row, and I think he's getting close.
I have to bring up the Garcia brothers because last year when we talked to you, I believe it was just about right after the Johan Fran Garcia injury, and I believe Yastinson Garcia was still in Salem at the time. Obviously, Yastinson Garcia now is a top 100 prospect. He is in AAA. He is one of the big names being talked about because it seems like he's either going to be moved. If he's either going to be moved at the trade deadline, and if he's not, then it kind of feels clear that the Red Sox have a plan for him in the semi close future. And then Johan Fran obviously has come back from the injury. He's in high A now. He's starting to look a lot more comfortable at the plate. So I guess let's start with Yastinson Garcia and just, I believe last time we talked to you, you talked about how impressed everybody was with him coming out of spring training, just like the work that he had clearly put in. Obviously, it has paid off. Is this something that you expected from him though? Because like even like it's hard to expect someone to break out the way he did. But is this something that you guys as a coaching staff saw in him? Like this guy just has it.
I think so. There's very little he does now that surprises me. Going back 2 years ago, it was very understandable why he didn't break camp with Salem to start the 2023 season. When it's Roman Anthony, it's Miguel Bleis, it's Alan Castro. Um, but you could have, again, you look at a different org or our org at a different time, then sure, he breaks camp. Just so impressive. And what I noticed that spring training was how he took care of the intangibles, and he ran the bases incredibly well and played so incredibly hard and worked so incredibly hard. And the opportunity was given to him, and boy, has he run with it. But when you get to see him before the game, for however much time he was with us in Salem, and just how hard he's hitting the ball and how ridiculous he is making plays in BP and in our training. I mean, it's just so many web gems and so many balls hit so incredibly hard, and a relentless commitment to make better swing decisions, for example. Uh, not a surprise. He is a lot of fun to watch, and it was really cool to see him get the acknowledgement and earn the spot in the futures game.
And then Johan Fran obviously comes back from the injury. It's taken him a little bit, but it seems like he's figuring things out. Just had his first high A home run the other day. And obviously you got to coach him last year before the injury. What have you noticed as a difference, body wise, physicality, just how he plays the game? Has he looked good to you, like behind the plate and everything? Because that was a big worry. Was this is not a easy injury for anyone to come back from, let alone a catcher. So has that been something that you guys have tried to monitor to limit? And has he passed your test so far?
Yeah, he's been very impressive. He's probably trying to catch up for all the missed time every at bat. And also coming from the complex, like he could pretty much hit anything down there, and it's not the same up here. But we're starting to see a more mature approach to match the ability he has, and like you say, hit a homer a couple days ago. Just easy power. In terms of his catching, really impressed when he showed up. Just the quality of his moves. Just a huge credit to him, number one, for the work he's put in, taking care of himself, and then all of the staff down in Florida, whether that's on the rehab side or the position specific side. Just he came here after, like you say, a significant injury. Um, sure, looking like he missed a bit of time, missing some pitches that last year he was probably crushing, but that's to be expected. But how well he's caught has been really impressive, and so exciting to have back. And he was on an absolute heater when he got hurt. It's sometimes frustrating to think about the road that we didn't get to take because of the injury, but in the long term, I think this can do him well, especially in terms of he's learning how to look after himself.
Let's stay on the catcher position, because I think like a lot of the feeling in the red of people that follow the Red Sox system is that catching depth is kind of an issue. Kyle Teal was part of a big trade in the offseason, and interestingly, in this most recent draft, the Red Sox did not take a single catcher. However, there's been a reported, I don't know if it's official yet, that there's at least one undrafted free agent catcher that has been reported to be signing with the Red Sox. But you have Garcia that's in the mix now. You had Brooks Brannon, who has since been promoted, and you've had Hudson White, who was a draftee last year, and you've had a few other folks catch. Talk a little bit, if you can, about I guess maybe the difficulty of developing catching at the low levels of the minors, and what are the things that the catching instructors are trying to instill in them, and just what you think of. You talked about Johan Fran. You've had Hudson White this year, and again Brannon was there previously. What are the challenges of developing catching at the low levels, and what have you seen this year in general from your catchers?
I've been very impressed with our catchers. Brandon had got so much better. I think lots of people think Brandon has hit first, and I think that's very fair. I mean, it's stupid. He hit a ball at 119 or whatever it was. And the power is ridiculous, but has worked incredibly hard to improve his catching, and this year was incredibly improved. Hudson White does a fantastic job. Um, Mostly down to their work, but the framework they operate in is fantastic. Tyson Blazer, our catching coordinator, who works all the way from the big league level down, and actually coached Narvi with the Yankees, managed Narvi with the Yankees. He does a phenomenal job. And then our catching coaches everywhere are fantastic. We are working to own the zone. We keep things pretty simple. We're trying to keep strikes and make the borderline pitches look like strikes. Um, One of the hardest parts of it is learning the pitcher's goals. We are there as catchers to service the pitcher's number one, and the fingers that they put down is so important. We can give them help with wristbands and whatnot, but the catching life is incredibly difficult. They all want to hit. Some of them can already hit. Some of them are working on it. Um, but it really has to be secondary a lot of the time, because pitching is so important. So the work they put in, they're often at the ballpark before any of the other position players to find time for their individual development work, because later they've got to catch lots of bullpens. And sometimes that takes them out of the cages or takes them out of BP. So not necessarily a thankless task, but it's a difficult task compared to everybody else. And I have so much confidence in both the system we have because of the people we have and the quality of the catching. Um, every day, whether it's been Garcia or White, Brandon when he was here, Juan Montero doesn't catch a ton, but even when he is going to catch, even if it's not been for a week or two or three, every confidence that they're going to do a job, because they're talented.
In the first half, you guys were pretty close to winning the first half. You came in second place in the South. Bowling Green was 34-30. You guys were 33-33. But for the last few games, you were out of the running. Was it difficult to kind of keep everybody's focus when it's about to be the All-Star break and the playoff picture for the first half? You know, you're out of the first half running. Was it kind of a difficult thing? Like, these are professional baseball players, but they're also still kids. Like, you have literal teenagers on this team. Is it difficult to kind of keep some of them motivated at times when they're not really playing for anything as a team? Obviously, they're all still playing to make the big leagues and everything, but that like big team centric focus is kind of gone for a couple games. Is it something where you kind of had to reel people in, or was this a group that it didn't really matter where they were in the standings? They were going out there and playing the same way every day.
Probably a 24-hour deflation when you are eliminated, where it's just difficult, and the vibe in the clubhouse changes. You're very glad that it changed. Like, okay, we might come out a little flat today, but I don't think anyone's going to be angry. They're pissed off that they don't have the chance to win a championship, at least not unless we take care of business in the second half. I think it would be more of an alarm if, so what? That would be the bigger concern, especially while winning at the minor league level is not the be all and end all. Learning how to win in our organization is important. So kind of happy that we were pissed off and deflated that we were eliminated. And then 24 hours later, it's back to business, which again, mark of professionals. And it's one of the things that continues to be incredibly impressive about this group, whether they are as young as 17, 18, 19. They learn how to be professionals very quickly, and it's pretty cool, and a testament to the environments that are created all the way back down in the DR and on up to Florida.
Last year, you mentioned Nelly Taylor and Juan Montero as two like clubhouse leaders. Has there been anyone on this team? Obviously, they have both played for this team this year, but has there been anyone on this team this year that you've kind of looked to guide the younger players and to keep them in line and to keep them doing what they should be doing?
Yeah, great question. First of all, those two continue to do a great job. Danny Kerwin on the pitching side is a great clubhouse guy. He has a ton of fun, but also does it right, works very hard. One guy that really stands out in my mind and has since moved on, and so happy for Marvin Alcantara to have been promoted. Still very young, but an incredible role model. Really kind of assigns a leadership role of himself, especially with other Latin American players, younger players. How him and Franklin kind of fed off each other, and Marvin showed him the ropes. It was very cool to see. And while he's a younger statesman up in Portland, I've heard that he's continuing to lead up there in how he goes about his business, which is pretty cool. He's a special player, and I was very excited for him to get the nod up in Portland.
So you brought up, we're talking about this topic of, missing out on the first half, and the team being upset about that and that kind of thing. And I was going to wait till probably closer to the end to ask this, but I'll ask it now just because this just came up. I think that with Red Sox fans and people that watch the team regularly and see that for the Red Sox the last few years, there's been a big emphasis on the teams tend to play sloppy, and there tends to be this, whether it's mental mistakes in the field, not doing certain quote unquote little things that it takes sometimes to win baseball games. And the onus on that, I feel like a lot of times comes back to, well, there's guys that are coming up from the minor leagues, and what they're taught now in the minor league. You hear this from guys that played in the big leagues in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, that the emphasis in the minor leagues is not on winning baseball games. The emphasis is, I'm just talking about what the discussion is, and the emphasis is on personal development. With the Red Sox, they teach the hitter, like there's bat speed training programs. It's hit the ball hard in the air, pull the ball in the air. The pitchers, there's the velo programs. You obviously have Payton Tolle that is throwing 91 miles an hour, and all of a sudden he's getting it up to 98, 99. It's, throw the ball hard, get as much spin on your breaking ball as possible. All of these kinds of things. I know that Craig Breslow was on Nesson and said something. I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, that the Red Sox organizationally were having an issue in terms of turning batted balls into outs. And that was something that he feels like is going to need to be addressed. So where I'm going with this is I want to ask you, as somebody that is working with with the young players across the system, what is the balance, in your opinion, in terms of do you feel like Red Sox minor league players are being taught how to win games, or are they being taught development things? Because at the end of the day, in the big leagues, what matters is you win games. What matters is you move the guy from first to third. What matters is maybe sometimes people talk about pitching to the score, which I kind of think is crap, but basically it's not always about throwing the ball as hard as you can. It's about having command and putting it where it should be. And the little things defensively, those kinds of things. Do you feel like Red Sox players through the minor league system are being taught how to win baseball games?
I think now more than at any point during my, albeit limited, experience with the org. I think that there's a renewed, if it did happen in the past, or brand new, I don't know what happened before 2023, obviously, commitment to balance. And if we call them the big rocks of throwing harder and throwing nastier stuff, and being able to really do damage, is balanced with quote unquote little things. I think, and it's fun too. And the players have a thirst. Certainly, my experience this year, when we talk about different situations, whether have come up in a game or might come up, talking about things that they'll most likely at some point encounter during their career. Often from big league video, like an obstruction call that does or doesn't get called at the big league level, and what can we learn from that, so that if it happens to you when you get to the big league level, you're better prepared for it. They really respond well to it. So I think the balance we have is really good. And I mean, we talked about Payton Tolle cracking a top 100 list. Um, if he hasn't gone from 91 to 98, he's probably not on that list, right? Um, and then I think the balance is important, because as much as it does take the little things to win a lot of games at the big league level, um, our most recent big league win was because of Wilyer hitting 2 pumps and Fergie hitting another. Now, was there something earlier in an inning that allowed the inning to be extended? Maybe. That happens all the time. The small thing that doesn't show up on the scorebook sets the stage for the home run. That happens so much, and it's so important. And it's something I'm very excited about, that we are encouraged to, by leadership, teach those things. We're given runway to teach those things. We saw more of it during spring training this year, and I think we have a really good balance right now.
We are 38 minutes in, and somehow I have not brought up Albert Feliz yet, so I'm going to bring up Albert Feliz. I just talked to Payton Tolle yesterday. He brought up Albert Feliz. I talked to Philip Sykes a couple weeks ago in Worcester, who has never even played with Albert Feliz before. He brought up Albert Feliz. It genuinely seems like everybody loves Albert Feliz. There's all the folklore about him at this point. Tolle and Sykes talked about him hitting 94. With Tolle, I was talking about him hitting the 121 mile an hour pit. He had a 121 mile an hour hit in the same game that he threw 94, which I just think is absurd. But so the first part of this question is something I've noticed this year is when you guys get into extra innings, it kind of seems like a lot of those games, it's just 10th inning. Okay, position player. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, does that just have to do with you guys have kind of like pitching plans for games where it's like, hey, he's got Payton Tolle starting and he's got a 70 pitch limit. And then after him in comes Danny Kerwin and he's got 30 pitches. And then after him, it's Michael Sansone and he's got 20. And then after that, it's like, and that's it. So is that kind of where it comes in of just hey, we've hit our pitchers, we're out of 9 innings. Let's just throw out a position player.
Yeah, pretty much. You have your plan. Sometimes that looks really good. And you know what? If the game did go 13 innings, we could probably cover all 13 with a pitcher. And other times you're limited. And I mean, this is true even at the big league level too. And I know AC's talked about this, where if your decision to pitch or not pitch a certain guy or leave a certain guy in is solely based on today's game, then you're kind of screwing yourself for tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's certainly true down here. There might be a game where we hypothetically have 3 relief pitchers available to cover X innings. But if we use all 3, then we might be scrambling tomorrow. And then there's those days where it just doesn't go to plan, whether that's the pitcher has a rough day or, as happens certainly in the lower levels of the minor leagues, we don't handle the little things, and we make a couple errors. And the pitcher has to come out of the game at 35 in an inning, which seems like a kind of industry standard. For whatever reason, it doesn't go to plan. We are not going to sell a pitcher down the river and make them pitch longer. And it sucks when it's a game that you have a chance to win. But again, we're not going to put the win in front of the health of a player at the minor league level. And Albert's been the guy this year.
We've seen at every level, Philip Sykes pitched in AAA. A couple guys have pitched in AAA. Drew Earhart and a couple guys in AA have pitched. In single A, Framey De Leon and a couple guys have pitched. I believe Albert Feliz is the only one for you guys, the only position player. Is that something where other players are kind of they're trying to get into the mix, or is it kind of just like, hey, we know it's Big Al, like let's just let him do his thing? Or are there other position players coming up to you and kind of lobbying for?
No, no one's lobbying. If I'm not putting names out there, but if we did need to have to, we'd never want to, but need to have to go to another arm, then we know who they would be, and we know who they wouldn't be. If they don't train as pitchers. So Albert was the kind of the first guy identified going back to last season or even the season before. If it happens, he's the guy. And he had mixed success in Salem. I think we were winning by enough that he didn't get the decision or the save. But very early last season, he had success with it. It was success, and it was 95 or 96, depending on who you ask. Very early last season, and then he was the guy, and he's been the guy this season. And it's just a credit to him that there's no complaints. I don't think anyone wants him to do it. Sometimes it's very entertaining, especially if it is 95. No one wants him to do it, but he answers the bell every time, and it's a huge credit to him and his kind of commitment to our organization, that he's willing to do it.
And then just one last Big Al question. Just again, everyone seems to love him. Is he genuinely always as happy and smiley as I'm told? Because again, that was something, the first thing out of Payton Tolle's mouth was he's never not seen that guy smile. Like it seems like he's just that kind of teammate that you want around who and he has, to his credit, he's been on a heater lately. He's been putting up much better stats, and he's getting the numbers up there a little bit. But is he just kind of the guy that you get to the ballpark and like, hey, this guy's everyone's gonna have a good day. Big Al's in the lineup. Like we're gonna have a laugh. He's gonna do something, and he's gonna smile about it.
Absolutely. A joy to be around. Comes every day, not just with that positive mindset, but he is an animal. Like he was big 2 years ago when I met him. He's even bigger now. He's even stronger now. He absolutely crushes it. He does get pissed off when he doesn't have success, which again you kind of expect out of a professional baseball player. But he gets to the next pitch, the next AB, the next day very, very well, and admirably so. But yeah, he is absolutely a joy to be around, an incredible human being.
And we mentioned his 121 mile an hour hit. Obviously, Brooks Brandon had the 119. I think it was in Salem, but Frele Encarnacion hit a ball 120 miles an hour. Is that something that you have noticed this year? Just the exit velos? I feel like we've seen it a lot with, Johan Fran Garcia's home run was 103. Miguel Bleis has had some that were like 112. Has that been a big focus for you guys this year? Just getting to the barrel and hitting it hard, because it seems like that has been a massive trend, especially in Greenville this year.
I think it's the fruition of the approach and the philosophy for the last several years, and you're talking about players now that have been in the program that has been in existence since Jason Ochert was hired, and it's not necessarily that the swing's different. It might be than it was 2 years ago, but you combine the approach with the quality of work that goes on within strength and conditioning, for example. And now that Encarnacion swing, instead of being 105, is 110, and then it's 115, and then it's 120. Been fun to watch him. He's on a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's been really exciting since he's been promoted too, because he is an electric player. But yeah, short version, I think it's not new. It is the fruits of the labor of everybody involved over the last several years.
So we're about 10 days away from the MLB trade deadline. I am curious about, as that date gets closer, is there, in a minor league clubhouse, is there tension? Do guys talk about it? Do they think like this could be, I could get traded any minute, that kind of thing? Or is it, I assume that probably at the big league level, it's probably more prevalent, and even maybe in the higher minors, it's more prevalent. But has anything like that started yet? Are guys talking about it at all, or is it just you're just trying to focus on what you have to do each day?
For the most part, it's business as usual. I think we almost have two teams within the team: the pitching group and the position player group. And as I think is fairly common, the pitching group tends to include more American players, and you just understand more of the conversations that are happening amongst these college kids, and just a very intelligent group that loves the game, that is interested in the game. And you hear just general discussion about, oh yeah, trade deadline and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. But I don't think it changes, again, talking about their professionalism. If anyone gets traded, they might be disappointed, they might be excited, they might be surprised, they might be shocked, but they understand it. I mean, we traded Andy Lugo earlier in the year, and the initial reaction was like, "What?" And then, okay, what do I do now? And it is just like Moneyball. Like you expect a phone call from the other team. That's exactly what happens. And I mean, what a player he was. It's fantastic to see him continue to do well with the Twins, but he took it in his stride. And we had a lot of action last year. We had some weird things. In Greenville, they had Cutter Coffee come out of a game because he'd been traded, and I think it was 3 or 4 or 5 even players from Salem were traded, all in very different circumstance. And they might have phenomenal relationships, and there's that sense that they are immediately missing their teammate, but they are also incredibly professional, even the 18, 19-year-olds. So again, it'll be interesting what happens this year, and if it helps us get to October and win in October, let's go.
And then just semi-related to that, and this is probably hard for you to answer this, but the other thing, of course, is that the draft just happened, and the Red Sox drafted a lot of college players. However, they mostly drafted college pitchers, and we saw last year that pretty much, I don't think anybody, maybe a couple. Actually, we talked about this in the last episode. I think a couple guys did make their professional debuts. A bunch of position players did, but a few pitchers did, but not many, I don't think. And
I think it was 2.
The FCL season is. Did it just end? I think it's over pretty much, right? Or this week, I think it's over. And so there's not a lot of opportunities for those guys. Are you? Again, this isn't your decision. I don't know if you know how you will even answer this question, but do you have any expectation that guys that just got drafted, that you'll be managing them before the end of the season?
I have no expectations at all.
Okay.
In Salem, there was actually I don't know if this was coincidence or not, but exactly the same thing happened 2 years in a row where 3 college arms joined us for the last 2 weeks or so of the season. Um, I know that Greenville has had position players join the last 2 seasons, but I have no expectations. It's not even a question that I ask. Like, we have a team. We know our team's going to change anyway because someone's going to get promoted sooner or later, and someone will come up from Salem sooner or later, and so the job doesn't change. I think it would be really cool if someone comes, just to help another player begin their journey. Have not got to have that experience of coaching or managing a position player who's just been drafted. So that'll be something that's new for me. My interactions with the pitchers are pretty limited, and mostly we just have a really good time together. So it'll be cool to be sent an infielder or an outfielder. But again, I don't ask those questions, and we'll just keep coaching whoever they send us.
We just talked a little bit about a lot of different things: the trade deadline, potential trades, people moving up. We talked earlier about the outfield logjam, and uh, no matter what happens at the trade deadline, I think we're going to see pretty different teams, because players are going to get moved. So even if players from Greenville specifically aren't moved, we'll see them being promoted because of open spaces. Um, and I feel like at some point this year, Justin Gonzalez will be joining Greenville. What have you heard about him from inside the organization? I'm sure you've seen at the very least some highlights. Is he someone you are excited to work with? Because you didn't get to work with him in Salem last year, obviously. I don't know if you got to work with him at all in the offseason, spring training, whatever it is. But is he a player that you have gotten to work with at all? And is he someone that you are excited to work with?
Animal. Yeah. So in spring training, working with outfielders, um, got to see him almost daily. He'd come through for drills, and just towering above most people.
I don't
Uh,
believe he's 6'4".
uh,
He scored on a home run from Fraley Encarnacion, and Fraley's listed at 6'2". He was a full head taller than Fraley Encarnacion.
yeah, he's a beast, and has a lot of fun with it. Very conscientious, learning, play the outfield, um, and that was fun too. Just watching this animal of a person with tremendous ability run around and also have a tremendous time with it. And didn't get to see too much of him hitting during spring training, just with how rosters were for our spring training games. But just paying attention to Salem and the video highlights and the exit velos, it feels like as those are shared. Oh yeah, no surprise. Look who just hit a ball at 115 again. So yeah, I know he's crushing it down there. I love seeing the video, and if that does happen, it'll be a lot of fun. I think the fans in Greenville will get a kick out of it too. With him plus the Green Monster, will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then the pitching. We've talked a little bit about it. Obviously, Payton Tolle was there. He dominated. Eduardo Rodriguez was there. He dominated. John Holubitz has been great. Juan Valera was exciting when he was healthy. Brandon Clark's there now. Blake Aida's there. Hayden Mullins was there for a little bit. Noah Dean continues to rack up the strikeouts. I could literally sit here and name basically the whole roster. The pitching has been impressive up and down the roster. But the person I want to highlight right now is Eduardo Rivera, because he kind of came into the season as just a guy. The Red Sox got him minor league free agent at the end of last year from the A's. He pitched a couple games, and he's kind of become a legitimate prospect. Obviously, now he's in Double-A. He just had a really good start before the All-Star break. What did you see in his development this year? Obviously, the strikeouts were ridiculous. He was getting up to like the high 90s with his fastball. But what impressed you the most about Eduardo Rivera?
Tremendous growth in how he handles the time between each start. Really is finding his way there. I think when you have that much talent, especially in the lower levels, it's not easy necessarily, but you can just show up and stuff your way through a lineup 3 or 4 times. Um, you can't do that in high A. Not every week. Not every week. You certainly can't do that in AA. And we know he likes to compete. We know he competes incredibly well under the lights because we've seen the success in the Caribbean series. Um, he enjoys those moments, and he's starting not necessarily to enjoy, but embrace what he needs to do the several days between starts, and I think it's that growth that really started to emerge leading up to him earning a promotion to Portland, and I think if he hasn't made those improvements, then he probably doesn't get there, at least not at the time that he did. So super fun to see. He's a big teddy bear that is also a animal of a competitor, and it's exciting to see him up there in Portland.
Awesome. So we are at the top of the hour. We want to be respectful of your time, Liam. I did just want to ask one last question. So now you've been in Greenville for a few months. Tell baseball fans, and Derrik is going to hop on here as well. Give us your pitch for why baseball fans, not just Red Sox fans, but any baseball fans should take a trip to Greenville to watch a game.
I have not obviously been to every minor league facility in the country, but it is hands down the best that I've been to. The atmosphere is fantastic. The ballpark is fantastic. It's so the Driver in their 20th season. I think it's the 19th for Fluor Field. It seems like it's brand new, just because of the effort that's put into maintaining the place. And it's right in the middle of downtown Greenville, which is fantastic. And whatever your preferred brand of vodka is, or preferred tea, or whatever food, it is all there, and you can have a wonderful time before and after the game. And then just the ambiance too, with the Fenway dimensions. It's got a real aura about it. So definitely one that I think every minor league fan should have on their bucket list.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
you get to see Albert Feliz hit balls over the monster.
Yes,
How about that?
you get to see Big
Should have
Al.
just started with that.
Just started with the Big Al. Yeah, and
start and end with it.
I'm hoping at some point to get there as well. I live in the Northeast, but one reason why I would love to go is because Fluor Field has like like a Shoeless Joe Jackson museum and all that
Right
stuff.
next
I'm a
door.
big baseball history guy, and I think it would be amazing to see that, him being a native of the city there. So
We have
I was there for one game and it downpoured. Didn't even get to watch a game.
Didn't even get to watch.
It's an amazing area, and I had 80 different people tell me go to this place, and I was like, guys, I'm here for one night. Give me one thing to do and I can do that. But yeah, that's one of the better areas I've ever been to for a baseball game. It's such a cool stadium. It's such a cool area.
Yeah. Cool.
But I do know Derrik has a question.
I do, actually. Last year when you were on the show, you mentioned how you at one point had visited the DSL Academy and the Dominican Academy in Dominican. And I was wondering if there's anyone below Greenville that you haven't had the chance to work with yet that you're really excited to potentially get the chance in Greenville to get the chance, whether it's this year or next year.
Good question. I mean, we talked about Gonzalez. I've worked with him in the sense I've hit fungos at him in spring training. Same with Azokar, who's going to be an animal. I'm going to mention this name because he's still been in Florida, but Baker, who is Bahamian, Toronto Baker. I have an affinity for the Bahamian, given the Bahamian World Baseball Classic Great Britain connection. So really cool to have him in the organization. Had a lot of fun just interacting with him during spring training, but without getting him to see him play much baseball. And we've seen this trajectory that the Bahamas as a country is on in baseball, with Jazz, who's now an established big leaguer. Sebastian Walcott is really not very far away with the Rangers. So maybe Baker will be the next one. And what that country is doing for world baseball is pretty cool. And I think it punches above its weight. And per capita, I think it's probably the big league, the DR and Dutch Antilles that are producing the most big leaguers. But if you include just minor leaguers, what the Bahamas is doing too. So Baker's my guy.
All right. Well, we'll be on the lookout for him and hopefully get the chance to work with him in Greenville at some point. All right, manager Liam Carroll of the Greenville Drive. We so appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. We wish you the best of luck. Obviously, we'll be watching the rest of the Greenville games the rest of the way, and hopefully next year, 2026, we'll have you on for a third year in a row. How does that sound?
Let's do it. In the meantime, come to Greenville. We got an airport.
Absolutely, we'll definitely we'll definitely try to do it. All right, so we're gonna let you go, Skip. We've got more show between the three of us here, but we want to again thank you so much for your time, and have a good rest of your night. And we really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate
Coach.
you all. Thanks for everything.
All right, so once again, thanks to manager Liam Carroll of the Drive for joining us. It was awesome. It was great to hear his perspective and definitely learned some cool stuff. So we have the rest of the show now to do. It's going to be a little different than normal. We are going to do our minor league awards. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Derrik, who is here.
Well, should I give like a grand opening? This is episode 499 and a
We
half.
already did that.
499 and a half. Brought to you by Beyond the Monster.
Just call it episode 500 and piss everyone off. Throw a complete wrench in all their plans.
They've got. Not sure what they have cooked up. For
I do know what's in
series.
plan.
I'm
not
aware of the plans.
Spoil
Yes.
it, so
I have not. I don't know. Nobody tells me anything. So
We will tell you after.
We will tell you after, Jake. This is a time to kind of get into our fun awards portion. It's a little bit smaller than normal, considering we did have the Liam Carroll interview, which, like Jake said, thanks for Liam to join us again.
He's the man. I just want to say that
he's awesome.
every time. Both times he's come on, I'm just amazed at like how good the answers are. Like I always feel like, he's a manager. He's gonna kind of have to censor himself with what he says about the organization or players or something, and he always just gives such detailed, good answers on everything. It's just it blows my mind how. I mean, he's a professional coach, but it still blows my mind how articulate and just smart he is about the game of baseball. But
big fan.
Always super happy to have him on.
Absolutely,
definitely. And I will just add, I will add too. Like, I mean, it's always fun having guests on. But because that we did like kind of shorten our awards. Typically, we have like best power hitter in the system, best base runner, best or speedster. So I think what we typically call our best we have some extra ones. For this midseason, we're just
those will be
going best position player, best pitcher.
Those will be end of the year awards.
Yes, those will be.
I also do want to say, very happy that he was the first person or the first episode where we had the minor league intro for the video. Although I was a little upset that I didn't get to talk about it right away. Very happy with how that came out. Jordan crushed
Shout
it.
out to Jordan.
Very happy that he got the Payton Tolle celebration in there, and Liam Carroll even mentioned it during the interview. So I was very happy about that.
That is definitely true. Shout out to Jordan on that. We finally have our own intro. Yay. Let's get off to things. So let's kind of kick things off here. Just a little bit of a precursor. Each award we put in 3 nominees, I guess, and we also left a write-in option as an optional. If you feel someone else is more deserving, you're more than free to write them in. So because we want to leave that option in case, or for some shenanigans, which we might get to in Greenville. We'll save that for them, though. One of our favorite players, who has already came up on this episode. Shout out Big Al. We'll start with, in AAA, though, we'll start with their best position player of the first half. The nominees were Roman Anthony, Stinson Garcia, and Marcelo Meyer. We'll kind of start off. I feel like we should just kind of talk about all 3 of them. I'll hand it off to Jake. We'll keep tradition alive. I'll hand it off to Jake first.
Well,
before we do votes, I kind of want. Actually, let's do this. Before we do votes, I think we should just kind of discuss the 3 of them in general because, we do have some time on that.
Well, so Hunter, do you have the list open, or I'm just because there was like a
no? I just have the player, the roster up or the stats up.
Oh,
so.
Well, then Derrik, I think you didn't say who the
Roman Anthony.
Yeah. Just say who they are, and then we'll Okay,
yes.
so it's Roman Anthony, Stinson Garcia, and
Marcelo
Meyer. All right, so obviously 2 of those guys are in the big leagues now, and one of them. So it's interesting because it's not anybody who's been there the whole entire season to this point. but it is just kind of like how it shook out. I do think you could make an argument that Vaughn Grissom has put himself in this conversation as somebody that's been there all year. He's been very good recently. But I think, like, obviously, like, for Roman Anthony, had a little bit of time in Worcester at the end of last year. He comes in like really as kind of the number one prospect and just like absolutely, lives up to every expectation. Stinson Garcia like was okay in Portland, but then he goes up to Worcester and has like kind of mostly knocked the cover off the ball since he's been there, doing better than he did in Portland. And then Marcelo Meyer, has had to play multiple positions, and he didn't get to play in Worcester at all at the end of last year, even though he was promoted. He was hurt and didn't play. So he comes up this year and makes his AAA debut. And he certainly showed like he belonged the whole time. And he got an earlier call up to the Red Sox than I think was even expected. So it's obviously three top prospects, three guys that are currently like in the top 100 prospects. Although again, Meyer and Anthony are both very close to graduating from the list if they have not already. So it's kind of just pick your poison, because a lot of these guys have they've played just about the same amount of time, all three of them. My opinion is that I don't really think you can pick anybody besides Anthony, because he just was doing stuff at the AAA level that for his age, like I believe the whole time he was in AAA, he was like either the youngest or one of the very youngest guys at the whole level, and was dominating the pitching. I think we have to give it to him for that like 500-foot grand slam alone that he hit in Polar Park, and playing multiple outfield positions, hitting for power, hitting for average, incredible patience, all the stuff, like all of the great Roman Anthony stuff was on display from day one, and everybody was screaming and pounding down the door of why is he not in the big leagues. And then he made it to the big leagues, and not only is he making the big leagues, like he's hitting in the first four spots of the lineup every day. He's in there against lefties. Alex Cora is like, this is our guy. The Red Sox were not afraid to trade Rafael Devers away because the organization believes that they have his replacement in Roman Anthony for everything that Devers was doing, as from an offensive standpoint. And so why did he earn that trust? Because of what he did in AAA, and like he lived up to every expectation. And I think that we have to give him credit for living up to that expectation, because when you're the number one prospect in baseball, the expectation is you have to play like that. And he did that from day one this year with a lot of pressure on him. And you look at him in the big leagues now, and he's still doing it. So I don't think you could pick anybody besides Roman.
I do think it's funny. I try to stay off like Reddit, because somehow Reddit is worse than Twitter when it comes to takes. It's still better than Facebook, but I think everything is. But I remember when Roman Anthony first got called up, and he was like 1 for 15 to start his career, and the amount of people ready to call him a bust and say like he's really bad defensively, and now he has like a +5 outs above average already in right field, and just like how he's clearly not good, all this stuff, and basically since then he's been like their best all-around hitter. He works counts, he draws walks, he hits the ball stupid hard. Didn't he just have like 115-mile-an-hour hit yesterday or something like that? Yeah. Just ridiculous. But if we're looking just AAA, I think you can make a case for any of them to an extent. Like you mentioned, Stinson Garcia went up there. He's played so much. The stats are so much better than they were in AA. He's 15 less games than Anthony, 1 less homer, 3 less doubles, 2 less RBIs. Marcelo Meyer only played 43 games in AAA. He has 43 RBIs, which is 2 less than the team lead of 45 by Nathan Hickey, who has 102 more at-bats than Marcelo Meyer. And then the next closest is Vaughn Grissom with 39, and he has 144 more at-bats than Marcelo Meyer. But then you look at Roman Anthony, 51 walks, consistently the leadoff guy, a bunch of big moments. He had a 2-homer game. He had 2 grand slams this year, one being that 500-foot majestic, ridiculous my God, like that was like the breaking point for a lot of people. Like everybody was already kind of like, why is this guy not in the bigs? And then he does that, and that was kind of like what else could he possibly do? Like he's doing this. And just like Garcia and Marcelo Meyer, Yastinson Garcia and Marcelo Meyer, both such good players, both phenomenal years in AAA. Garcia is obviously only going to continue to add to his stats as he's still there. But it's Roman Anthony. Not a 914 OPS. He drew the walks. He got on base. He was getting extra base hits. He was hitting the ball hard. He was playing good defense. I don't know if we're really putting that into play here. Is it best position player or best hitter? It doesn't matter. I'm counting defense either way. Okay. I'm counting defense either way. And all three of them, very good defensively. Yastinson Garcia has been lauded by a ton of people as being a very good defensive outfielder. Marcelo Meyer was playing multiple positions and looking great. And shout out to him for looking like a Gold Glove third baseman in the majors. Like, dude barely played the position. He's been phenomenal there. And then they move him to second base. He's been great there. He's so smooth and it just everything he does, he never lacks confidence, but it's not cockiness. It's just like you can tell he believes in himself, and that helps him play smooth and make everything look good. But Roman Anthony played a great left field, played other positions, but played a great left field. It just any other year this would have gone to Meyer or Yastinson Garcia. And maybe there's like that slight bias of Roman Anthony's the best prospect in baseball, but Roman Anthony just edges them out by being that special. So I'm also going Roman Anthony.
Yeah, I do want to real quick just on Meyer. He cut his strikeout rate this year in AAA to, well, I shouldn't even say this year. The last 2 years between AA and AAA, cutting his strikeout rate to just under 20%. I think is a big thing, but like continuing it this year, I think was big. Obviously, the moving around different positions and kind of showing he could handle multiple different positions at and be a big league quality, like a big league level defender, massive, right? But I definitely am on the Roman Anthony train on this one. I think it's kind of too obvious. I mean, if we want to go just kind of strictly off like hitting stats, I think Anthony probably has the best numbers. Yes, Garcia has one less homer and two less RBIs, although Roman Anthony was hitting leadoff, so I mean there's also that. But Roman Anthony had almost 20% walk rate, and he had a 145 weighted runs created plus in AAA, which is just bonkers for someone as young as he is. I'm not taking age into this consideration, but it's so crazy. And then we've seen him, and I'll just make the point, like the Red Sox, you could argue have potentially 4 center fielders in the big leagues if you wanted to kind of count Willier, because I do think Willier could play center field if they didn't have any of the other guys they had. But Roman Anthony being able to move to a corner and be a plus defender there in the positions where he hasn't played as much of, considering he typically would get priority and play center field, and this year they kind of were, no, we're going to move you around a little bit to get you ready for where you're going to play in the big leagues. I think that's kind of a big thing. And yeah, Stinson obviously has had a really good time in Worcester. I will not be shocked if end of the year comes, yeah, Stinson Garcia gets the full season award, but midseason, I'm going to also pick Roman Anthony. And our voting had 62% of the votes actually towards Yastinson Garcia. 62% of the votes towards Yastinson Garcia. The other 38% were all towards Roman Anthony. So Marcelo Meyer did not get any votes, but that does not mean he was bad or anything. He obviously played really well, but I think it's just kind of landscape.
So the public vote was Roman Anthony, but I believe in past we've done public vote counts as one vote, right?
Yeah. Well, public vote was Yastinson Garcia.
No, public vote was
Yastinson Garcia.
That counts as one vote. All our votes counts as one as well.
So Roman Anthony still wins.
Yes, Roman Anthony still wins.
1 for 1. I'm trying to pitch a perfect game here.
So Roman Anthony does win the award, regardless of the public vote. Because
fuck you, public.
Wow.
Damn.
That's
turning heel on the fans.
It's a Ron Burgundy moment there.
So
Hunter knows ass is grass.
Well, we'll move on to the pitching side of things before it gets too wild here. But on the pitching side of things, the nominees were Nick Birdie, Shane Drohan, and Brian Van Bell, who is unfortunately not with the Red Sox anymore. They should have got him into a game in the big leagues. That's besides the point. I'll flip it over to you, Hunter. We'll switch the order up. Who do you have, Hunter, for pitcher of the first half?
This is probably the hardest award for me because, you could argue none of the hitters had been there all year either. But like, this is such a different situation where Van Bell obviously got traded. Nick Birdie is a reliever. He's only got 21 innings. He's been hurt. And then Shane Drohan's been hurt for a while. But the issue is the pitching in Worcester just hasn't been phenomenal. There's like no one that really stands out. Like the three nominees for the hitting side were all like elite level. And then this one, it's like you've got, like, don't get me wrong, Shane Drohan was having a very good year. But he has how many innings pitched this year? 26. Brian Van Bell has 36. Like no one that was pitching well. I'm sorry, Brian Van Bell has 51. No one that was pitching well got a ton of innings, but that is why I'm going Brian Van Bell, because he threw 51 innings, put up very good numbers, 2.29 ERA, 41 strikeouts, only 7 walks. It feels weird giving it to someone who is not even in the organization anymore, but he was the guy, especially when they put him back into the starting rotation and all of a sudden he was giving them 5-6 really good innings every time out. Like, that's something that Worcester hasn't really had this year. Like, they had a good stretch from Robert Stock at one point. They had a good stretch from Cooper Criswell at one point. Obviously Shane Drohan was great when he was healthy, but I find it hard to give it to someone with 26 innings when someone's pitching just about at the same level as him, who threw double the amount of innings. And Worcester's just been so void of like a dominant type starter, which is what Brian Van Bell was for them. So I'm giving the word to Brian Van Bell.
So yeah, I'm gonna agree and give it to Brian Van Bell. The whole thing about him, and I don't have a lot to add. Like, I just think he was, for the time that he was with the Woo Sox, he was he was really pretty consistently the best pitcher that they had. He did both start and relieve. It's just, in hindsight, it's a move that I still don't really understand. Obviously the Red Sox, going back to what it was, and it was just over a month ago, and it's like so much stuff that happens I don't really remember. Basically, the Red Sox made the trade for Jorge Alcala, which of course we talked with Liam Carroll about the Andy Lugo getting traded. That was the move to get Jorge Alcala. Now Jorge Alcala has been really good for the Red Sox for the most part. They seem to like they really unlocked something. So the issue is not trading him. The issue was that there were other options to get him on the roster that in hindsight looks pretty bad. I know that the Red Sox now, obviously right now, we know that like Tanner Houck has had this recurrence of his arm injury, and he's probably not going to pitch again this year based off of what has been discussed. But like his, rehab clock kept going and going and going. They easily could have just put him on the 60-day IL. The other name is Liam Hendriks. Same thing. They could have either put him on the 60-day IL or they could have just DFA'd him. Instead, they decide to trade Van Bell to Cincinnati for cash considerations. When he was really like the best pitcher so far this year in Worcester. He comes up to the Red Sox for like one game, doesn't even get in the game, right? Or he's here for a few days. I can't remember exactly.
I think he was on the team for 2 games.
Yeah. And so it just was, the Red Sox have seen this issue where they've had some pitching depth problems. We saw Houck get hurt. We've now seen, Hunter Dobbins go down for the year. I'm not saying that like having Brian Van Bell on the team is the difference between the Red Sox being a playoff team and not potentially, but it just wasn't. It wasn't worth it. And yeah, so to me, I got to give it to him, and it is too bad that he's not. If Nick Birdie, I would say this: if Nick Birdie was pitching this whole time, he was still putting up those kind of numbers. Like if he hadn't been hurt for a while,
Yeah.
probably I would have considered giving it to him. But as is, I think you have to give it to Van Bell.
And just a quick note on Van Bell, his last 4 appearances with the Red Sox, or with Worcester, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, no walks. 2 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no strikeouts, 2 walks. 7 innings, 7 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Like, genuinely, so obviously the 2 innings was a relief appearance. His other 3 appearances were all 7 innings. He gave up 1 and 0 runs. He walked a combined 1 person in those 4 outings. Like, it's not like he was just going out there and giving up a ton, but going 5-6 innings. He was going out there and dominating for 6-7 innings. It's a, like you said, it's not like it's the difference between them winning the World Series or not, but he was such a good depth piece, and it really is a head scratcher that was the move that they made.
See, this one I'm torn on, because I feel like between, like, Van Bell obviously had the most innings, and like I felt like was like because of that the most consistent. Birdie obviously being a reliever somewhat hurts him. Also too gets called up, but then also gets injured. But was really good. And then Drohan, obviously the injury kind of cuts him about with like just over half of the innings that Van Bell has. So like, I don't want to say Van Bell was the worst out of these 3 in terms of when they played. I mean, Van Bell, obviously, I think you kind of got to take into account that Van Bell was healthy the entire time up until they traded him. Whereas obviously Drohan gets hurt. I kind of lean more Drohan than Birdie when it comes to considering them against Van Bell. And I just, on Drohan, 35.2% strikeout rate, just wacky, considering where he was even, like a few months ago in terms of, like, we, like, in spring training, we were like, what's Shane Drohan? Like, is he going to be any good, right? Like, we had no clue, and he comes out 2.03 ERA, 3.47 FIP, in 26 and 2/3 innings, only 177 average against him. So part of me is like really, really tempted to give it to Drohan, but I can't just because of the injury really kind of holding him back. So I will also go with Brian Van Bell, just for the consistency, and like you guys mentioned, once he got into the rotation and stayed in the rotation, he just consistently solid outing after solid outing after solid outing. So it's going to be 3 for Van Bell. That makes it a clean sweep among us. On the voting front, I will also mention we did have a write-in vote for Cooper Criswell. So shout out Cooper Criswell. Nick Birdie got 24% of the votes. Brian Van Bell got 34.5% of the votes. And Shane Drohan got 38% of the votes. So Drohan, in the most highly contested voting, got the listener vote, in the most highly contested one. No one over 40% there, which I think kind of speaks to kind of how close it kind of is there, because Van Bell has the kind of the more innings pitched and overall consistency. Drohan was really good, but shorter period of time, and Birdie being a reliever and also being injured kind of hampers him there. But Brian Van Bell, no longer with the Red Sox, but does win the midseason award for Worcester's best pitcher of the first half. With that, we'll now move on to Portland, and we have the AA best position player of the first half. The candidates are Alan Castro, Bleis Jordan, and Mikey Romero. This one's a very interesting one, considering our ties with pretty much all 3 people here in the voting, or at least me, considering the Alan Castro fan club. There's absolutely ties there. I'm going to pick Alan Castro because I don't care. I'm picking him. There was no way I wasn't going to pick Alan Castro. But he has had a very nice year. Obviously, getting injured at the start sucks. It's actually funny. You kind of compare him to Bleis Jordan, Mike Romero. Bleis Jordan's only got 44 games in Portland. Mike Romero's got 59. Castro still has 55. Obviously, Bleis Jordan got promoted, and then Romero and Castro both kind of battled their fair share of injuries. But Castro this year, in 55 games, only 48 strikeouts and 25 walks as well. He's got 7 homers. It's been a massive improvement from the kind of rough stretch he had at the end of last year, which kind of could have created some doubt around him, whether or not he's, because it's a big jump, obviously, from IA to AA. But he's kind of come back this year and kind of put himself in a position where it's like, oh, no, he's having a good year in AA. And we'll see what happens with him. But I have to pick Alan Castro. I can't not. Jake, who do you have for AA position player of the first half?
I mean, yeah, this is surprisingly tough, I thought, because I think there's definitely ways you can go and really good arguments for all three. Obviously, Castro's been there for, the longest part. He's been there from the season and has been, has had his sort of peaks and valleys, but he's been very good of late and has pulled himself up to be in this discussion. I think that Romero has been, I think has shown that he deserves to probably be in AAA, but there's a huge logjam of infielders in there right now, so I don't think that that's going to happen. But I think that because of how great he was, and just like I think coming into the year with maybe not as high expectations and doing what he did, I have to give it to Bleis Jordan because he just was so incredible. Only in not as many games as the other guys, obviously, like we said, 44 games for him compared to 55 for Castro and 59 for Romero. He just was so much better than everybody else has been there this year. Like a 928 OPS, a 320 batting average in 44 games and 176 plate appearances. Like that's not a fluke. Six home runs. He had 37 RBI in 44 games. He had 11 doubles. And he played very good defense at both third base and first base. And again, coming into a season where I think people just kind of thought that Bleis was who he was. And it's like, is he ever going to make his way out of Portland after a lot of time there? And he earned it and he made his way there. And he's continued to do pretty well in Worcester too. So considering just how much better he was than everybody else, in his time in Portland this year, like I have to give it to Bleis Jordan.
Alan Castro has been a little bit too streaky. Like we see him hit 500 one week and then the next week he goes like 1 for 12. Mikey Romero has had a little bit of that same issue. But I mean, both of them have been phenomenal this year, though. They've both improved on a lot. It's been really nice to see. But for me, it's pretty clearly Bleis Jordan for a lot of the reasons Jake pointed out. The OPS is just ridiculous. The 37 RBIs is one less than the team lead of 38, which is Mikey Romero. And then the next closest is 33 by Ronald Rosario, who, fair credit to him, has been phenomenal lately. But your the big thing for me, obviously, and again, Jake mentioned how good he has been defensively, all these other things. The big thing for me, the big reason I'm voting for Bleis Jordan is something I actually, I went to the Portland games this week against Reading, and there was a scout for the Red Sox in the press box. And one of the things we talked about a lot was how bad Portland's offense has been since Bleis Jordan left. Like this has been a bad offense. And I mean, it's been coupled with, there was a long stretch where Mikey Romero was hurt and Zach Earhart was just getting his feet wet in AA, and Ronald Rosario has been great for the last like 2 weeks, but he was really bad for most of the season. And just like, it's like they survived Yastunsen Garcia getting promoted. They didn't really survive Bleis Jordan getting promoted for a very long time. Like they've started to figure it out, but even now it's such an inconsistent offense. And Bleis Jordan was just such an anchor to that team. It was, no one's getting hits today. Bleis Jordan's going to go 3 for 4 with a bomb. No one's, the pitchers set down 8 in a row. Bleis Jordan's going to work a 13 pitch walk. And that's a big thing that I don't think Jake mentioned. I don't know if he did. I apologize if you did. In AA, 22 walks compared to 19 strikeouts. That was such a massive improvement from last year. It just everything. Bleis Jordan was such a head and shoulders MVP of this team before he got promoted. And then just the fact that we've seen the offense absolutely sputter since he's been gone, I think kind of shows how important he was to this team. And they still have a ridiculous amount of talent. This isn't insulting anyone on the team. There's still a ton of talent there. But he was just like, he was that professional guy in the middle of the order who was going to bring the person home if there was someone on second. He was going to get on base if they needed someone to get on base. And they just, at the moment, they don't have someone fulfilling that role to the level he did. So just his performance while being there, and then the team struggles since he's gone, to me highlights why he's the first half position player of the year.
And with that, I guess listener voting, Alan Castro with 7% of the vote, actually 6.9% of the votes for Alan Castro. Nice. Then Mike Romero got 34.5% of the votes, and then Bleis Jordan got 58.6%, 58.5%, we'll say, percent of the votes. So Bleis Jordan is the AA position player of.
Good job, fans. I'd never say anything bad about you. I love you.
With that, we'll move on to the pitching side of things in Portland. The options were Connolly Early, Yordany Monegro, and Hayden Mullins. I don't know, whoever wants to take it first can go.
I think if we're kind of going around, I think it's back to me to do the first one. So what a bummer about Yordany Monegro. I mean, pitching injuries are just the worst. They should not be allowed. We just shouldn't let them happen.
I agree.
And because he was doing great, showing more strikeout stuff this year, 33 and 2/3 innings, 49 strikeouts, like getting more strikeouts than he had previously in his career, and just getting sort of cut down with the injury. It just really sucks. Hayden Mullins has been great too, but he's missed time, I think, right, because of an injury. And he's got a little over a strikeout per inning, doing really good. I do just want to shout out, I do think David Sandlin's has had a really good year. Blake Wehunt, he got hurt too, right? And he had been pretty good. And there's been a few other guys in the bullpen that have done well. Noah Song has been good. And we've seen Payton Tolle do really well early. We're obviously going to talk about him more going forward. But I really think that the answer here has got to be Connolly Early, who is just still wondering why he's in AA. I feel like it's been over a month, if not longer, that we've been why is he still in AA? I think that there will be some moves over the course of the next couple of weeks, trade deadline wise, that will hopefully open up an opportunity for Connolly Early to get up to Worcester. But he's piggybacked a couple times. He hasn't. Not every outing has been a start, but 15 games total, 71 and 2/3 innings, 96 strikeouts to 29 walks. He's only given up 3 homers on the year so far. Just a guy that was always this pitchability guy with the feel, with his off-speed stuff, who has gotten into the Red Sox velo program. He throws harder. He has more swing and miss stuff. And a 2.51 ERA in 15 games and 71 and 2/3 innings. And I think that he has cemented himself as one of the top pitching prospects in the system. He's definitely at a top 10 prospect in the system at this point. He has really made a name for himself this year, has taken that leap up to being, again, a really coveted guy in the system, somebody whose name has come up a lot in these sort of fake trades as somebody that other teams would want. And him doing it at AA is the reason why I would think he might be attractive to other teams in a trade. We'll see what happens. But I think that Connolly Early is the pick for the Portland pitcher of the year.
I'll just add, I totally haven't added Connolly Early in any fake trades in my head. Totally haven't. I'm sorry. To be fair, it was for Nick Lodolo. Okay, come on. To be fair,
I completely agree with Jake on the injuries. We just need to tell them no. Next time a pitcher's arm blows out, just stop it, and maybe that'll fix it.
Tell them to turn the injury slider off.
Yeah, turn the injuries off, guys. This is basic. This is something we've been doing since we were 4. Come on, turn the injuries off and let's figure it out. because this would have been a very close race if Monegro was healthy all year. He was dominating at the level. It was really fun to watch. I'm going to be annoying because I've brought it up a few times already. But the Payton Tolle interview, awesome dude. Please go listen to it. He's a very easy person to talk to. One thing I mentioned was just how electric Monegro was on the mound, and how fun it would have been to see Payton Tolle celebrating while Yordany Monegro was also celebrating on the mound. And it really sucks that we got to see, 9 or 9. Yeah, 9, right? 9 really good Yordany Monegro AA outings this year, and then we got the plug pulled on us for at least a year. And I've seen people say at least he'll be protected, like at least no one will take him in the Rule 5 draft. The Blue Jays took Angel Bastardo, who I would argue is not as good of a prospect as Yordany Monegro. And he literally like the same exact story, and he was not pitching nearly as well as Monegro was in AA. But it's the same exact situation. So I do not think he's as safe as some people think he is. But it's gotten to the point where I'm going to start muting anytime I post about Connolly Early, because it's just 47 replies asking why he's not in AAA yet. I can't give you guys an answer. I don't know why he's not in AAA yet. He has been so damn good. The strikeouts are up. He's rarely getting into trouble. He's had a couple rough starts here and there, but I mean, he's something I feel like is important to remind people is he's also developing. Whenever people see a dominant prospect and then they have a bad day or two, people start questioning them and saying like, this guy's not as good as I thought they were. Just because he's going up against minor leaguers does not mean he's also not a minor leaguer. He's still improving and learning. But he should absolutely be in AAA. He's been phenomenal. The velocity's up. The secondary stuff's really good. The sinker is ridiculous. The movement on that thing. And now that he's sitting at like 95 with it, that could be a genuine elite pitch in the majors if it continues to develop. It's Connolly Early. This Portland's pitching staff, we've talked about it all year, is so good. We could have nominated 12 different people for this. David Sandlin's been fantastic. Jack Anderson, when he's been there, has been great. Blake Wehunt, obviously Yordany Monegro, and it's been a ton of fun. Dalton Rogers has been great since getting there. Eduardo Rivera just had a really good outing. Obviously, Payton Tolle's been disgusting. And it's something that we've seen Portland have to deal with, trying to figure out how to get all these guys into games. But one thing, obviously, and Connolly Early, I should say, because I was going to say one thing we haven't seen is Connolly Early piggybacking. He did piggyback a few games early in the year, but that just so happened to coincide with major league rehab outings. But it seems like they have prioritized Connolly Early being a starter when there's not those situations. And yeah, I think he's another one of those guys. There's a couple guys in the system, but he's one of those guys who will be in the if he's not traded at the deadline, he will be in AAA. Like I think that there's two ways to go about it. Either he gets traded, or the day after the deadline, you're moving him up to AAA. You're one of those two things. And I do think we're going to see some pitchers traded. But Connolly Early's been so fantastic that it's gotten to the point with him where he's a legitimate trade piece. He is someone that you could trade for a legitimate major league talent. But he's just been head and shoulders better than everyone else, which is impressive to say considering how good Portland's pitching staff has been.
Definitely, I pretty much agree with everything said. I also am going Connolly Early. And yeah, I do agree. We could have nominated so many people. It's just looking through like the people who have pitched in Portland, like Early, Sandlin, Anderson, Wehunt, Monegro, Mullins, Jonathan Brand. Even Uberstein had only 6 starts, but he still threw almost 30 innings. If this was, even Noah Song to some extent, if this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, we could even be having Payton Tolle in the discussion. Because he, in 2 or 3 weeks, he might, after his next 3 starts, he might be at like something like 30 to 35 innings pitched, like potentially. But I think Conley Early is absolutely the right answer here. He's just been so good. And I mean, 2.51 ERA, 15 games, 12 of them starts, 71 and 2/3 innings pitched, 96 strikeouts, 29 walks. He's been just really good. There's no other way to put it. He's been really, really good. And yeah, I think it's either gets traded at the deadline or he gets moved up to Worcester. Also, though, I wouldn't say the Red Sox do have a little bit of leverage with him because he's not Rule 5 eligible until after next year. So it's not like it's we need to trade him or he gets added to we have to add him to the 40-man. They don't have to add him to the 40-man this offseason. So the Red Sox have a little bit more leverage. That might mean they can maybe hold out and get more for him, maybe. But I feel like the Red Sox may have a little bit more leverage when it comes to trading him over some other guys. But yeah, Conley Early, runaway favorite with the vote, 65.5% of the vote for Conley Early. Hayden Mullins got 24%. Yordani Monegro got 2 votes for another 6.9% of the vote. Nice. And then Jack Anderson had a write-in vote as well. So shout out to Jack Anderson for the write-in vote. But Conley Early, clean sweep. I think that's the first clean sweep, actually. That's the first.
It is surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, that's how good he's been.
Yes. With that, let's move on to Greenville. High A, best position player of the first half. The nominees were Franklin Arias, Miguel Bleis, and Nelly Taylor. Also, real quick, I was going to mention this in Portland. Both Blaze Jordan and Mike Romero have been on the show twice, technically, in the last year. Both of them have been on for a regular pod episode, and then Hunter interviewed.
Oh, that we're not. Those are bonus episodes. Those don't count.
Well, yeah, but
I see what you're saying. Though.
They've been on the show twice. They've been on technically, yes. So shout out to both of them, and the Alan Castro fan club gets repped every episode. So that's Alan
Castro's been on every episode in Derrik's heart.
Literally, yes. It's Alan Castro in the room with us now.
The spirit of Alan Castro will live on forever. But Franklin Arias, Miguel Bleis, and Nelly Taylor are the 3 candidates. We actually did have a couple write-in candidates, write-in options as well, which we'll get to them soon. I'll hand it over to you, Hunter, first. Who do you have for best position player of the first half?
This one is extremely difficult. We just talked to Liam Carroll, obviously, at the start of this episode, and a big thing has been just how good defensively the outfield is, and obviously that plays into it. Two of the options are outfielders. He talked a lot about how impressive Miguel Bleis has been defensively this year. That I really enjoyed that part. He talked about how the throw decisions have been good, how just consistently good he's been out there, because that's always been something with Miguel Bleis, is absurdly talented, absurdly gifted. But he is a kid, he's prone to make some mistakes in the outfield, and it seems like he's really cleaned that up this year. Nelly Taylor, obviously just an absurd defensive player. He has 26 steals on the year. He walks a ton. Miguel Bleis leads the team in RBIs and home runs. He has 18 steals. And then Arias has been the table setter since he's gotten there. He's led off. He's slowed down recently, but he had that ridiculous first month. Another interesting thing to hear from Carroll was just how hard Franklin Arias is apparently on himself. It seems like he takes everything very seriously in the best possible way. I feel like the fan vote is going to heavily favor Franklin Arias because of how good he was in that first month. And again, he hasn't been terrible. He's slumped, but the overall numbers are still very good. And he's also a very good defensive shortstop, I should say that. But I think I'm going to go Nelly Taylor because Miguel Bleis has been a little bit too inconsistent for me. Nelly Taylor is somewhat inconsistent with the bat too, but he is always consistent with the walks, even when he's struggling. He'll have weeks where he'll be 1 for 10, but he'll also have 6 walks. And it's like, okay, that's actually a very good week. And the leading the team in stolen bases. He's second on the team in runs. He's got 46 compared to Zanatello's 47. He racks up the extra base hits, 13 doubles, 3 triples, 6 homers. And they've consistently hit him near the top of the order. And it's all that. It's the speed, it's the defense, it's the leadership. I think everything gets thrown into it. And I just realized that this seems kind of biased because he's the only one of the 3 that has been on our show. But Nelly Taylor is getting my vote because I think you can make arguments for all 3 of them. But Taylor's been the most consistent thanks to the walks. And despite the fact that I think all 3 of them are great defensively, I think he gets the edge defensively. He gets the edge base running. So I'm going Nelly Taylor. And apparently I'm the only one voting.
I was waiting for Jake to go. I'll go second. This one's interesting for me. I think that's another somewhat difficult one. Bleis, I think, obviously has the leg up in terms of the fact that he's hit 12 homers this year. Also, Nelly Taylor's played 69 games this year. Nice. It's funny how that number just keeps on popping up. Nelly Taylor, the walks, like you said, Hunter, are a very big thing for Nelly Taylor this year. 53 walks, where someone like Miguel Bleis only has 30. Both of them have struck out actually a decent amount. And then Arias, I know his overall numbers still are fine. He got up to that absurd start and he's cooled down a little bit. But I mean, he's got 16 doubles, which leads the team. He leads the team in doubles, and he's played, he's only played 11 and 12 less games in Bleis than Taylor, but he's played 15 less games than Nazan Zanatello, and obviously, he spent 19 games or something in Salem, so it wasn't long. But my vote, Franklin Arias isn't getting my vote here. I'm also going to go with Nelly Taylor. I kind of have an affinity for guys who are just really good defensively, kind of like those kind of prospects, and for whatever reason, it goes back to I know, Hunter, you were on the Rafaela hype train really early. Rafaela, I think when we started the show, he was probably one of my favorite prospects in the system, just because of the floor that having that elite defense brings you. And then you kind of look at a guy like Nelly Taylor and the defense, the speed, he has a very high floor, and I kind of tend to like that. I don't know why, but those guys just. Maybe it's because even if the bat's not going, you can see a highlight reel catch from them on any given night, even if the bat's not going. So, you can always tune into a game and expect to see something from them, even if they go 0 for 4. So maybe that's why I kind of tend to like those guys. But I'm going with Nelly Taylor. And he also 13 doubles, 3 triples, 6 homers. It's not like not like there's no power there in the bat either.
Yeah, this is a really tough one. I like we're talking about. I think that if Arias had been more consistent over the last month, I feel like I'd have to pick him. And I just same thing with Bleis. I just don't think he's been that consistent enough. So I won't belabor this. I'm going to go with Taylor also. So it'll be a sweep for us. I'm interested to see what the fan vote is, but I think the combination of how great he is defensively and his ability to get on base, that 372 on base and just consistently, making things happen, not being an easy out. I think that has to sort of stand for something. He has a higher batting average than Bleis does, but Arias, I think at 19 in high A has maybe hit something of a wall offensively that I hope that, we've been talking a lot about the possibility of him playing in Portland at age 19. Feels like that's not on the table at the moment. It could happen at the very end of the year potentially, but he's got to find his legs and his consistency at the bat again. But Nelly Taylor, the combination of his defense, his speed, his ability to get on base, and then it was also just great to hear from Liam Carroll about his attitude in the clubhouse and the kind of person and teammate that he is to be around. So, I'm gonna go with Nelly.
I know Derrik said that there's a couple write-in votes, but I'm going to take an educated guess here and say that 90% of the vote is going to go to Franklin Arias, just because of name recognition. I think he with how good he was that first month. I think a lot of the fans are going to vote Franklin Arias.
Well, Arias had 55% of the vote, so not 90%. Nelly Taylor got 21%. Miguel Bleis had 14%. We had a write-in vote for Zach Earhart. And then with 6.9% of the vote, Albert Feliz. Big Al.
So what did he get?
Can't
2
beat that.
votes?
Yes.
Sweet. Good for Big Al. He deserves it. He deserves every vote.
I will say, I'm not going to lie, I didn't bring up Zach Earhart, but his Greenville numbers, 31 games, the slash lines was 342, 471, 459, and 26 walks to set 27 strikeouts. And he also stole 7 bases without being caught. Earhart was probably, like, arguably, like, could have been a legitimate pick. I should argue he could have been a legitimate pick. I think the only thing that hinders him was the 31 games played. Is really what just hindered him there. With that, though, let's move on to the pitching side of things. This one might be obvious. I don't know. I feel like it might be. At least it might be obvious in terms of what the listener vote's going to be. The nominees were Eduardo Rivera, Isaac Stevens, and Payton Tolle. I'll just take this one first, and I think we can tell what the listener vote's going to be. I'll just say it's Payton Tolle. I'm also picking Payton Tolle for obvious reasons. The 3.62 ERA is definitely a little bit bloated, right? I think like that first start that he had, that was, I already forget what it was.
Well, we talked that was like the first question that I asked Coach Carroll about when we had him on, was just like, what was his reaction to that outing? But yeah, he didn't get out of the second inning. He was, an inning and 2/3, 6 earned runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you take out that start, if you don't include that start, his ERA would be a full run lower in Greenville. It would go from 3.62 to 2.63. So
yeah, and I like the consistency. I'll also just mention, like, it's funny because if you include his Portland time, I know we're just talking about Greenville, but I just real quickly want to include his Portland time because outside of the first start this year, he has a 2.45 ERA on the year, including his starts in Portland. Obviously, we're just talking about Greenville, and that'd be a 2.63. Like you mentioned, basically a run lower. Oh my, she's basically a run lower. I think it was 0.99 lower. Outside of that start, every single start was pretty much 1 run or 0 runs, with the exception of 2 starts, right? And that was it. Every other start was 1 run, no run, no run. I think it was just pretty much 1 run the rest of the way out, minus the 2 4-run starts. Just very consistent, and I mean, like 79 strikeouts and only 14 walks is absurd. He also only gave up 2. Only hit 2 batters as well. So some guys who walk some more guys, sometimes maybe don't walk as many guys. They might hit some guys. Not to throw anyone's name out there, but like I'll use, obviously not as many innings, but Brandon Clark's hitting 9 guys this year. Now, some might say it's more efficient pitch-wise. Some might say. But totally not walking anyone, not really hitting anyone, just kind of limiting the free base runners as well, I think is a really big part on top of the stuff increase. So totally gets my vote.
Yeah, I'll let I'm not going to belabor this. Like I'll let Hunter talk about the other guys a little bit more. But like I mean Tolle is like, this is the most obvious answer of I think the whole entire thing. The guy just like, again, you take out that first outing in Greenville, his ERA is a full run lower. Dominating stuff, the best pretty much the best fastball in the organization besides Aroldis Chapman. Like he just can get guys out. He can get guys out in the big leagues right now. I believe that. And he's gone up to Portland and has not slowed down. And I just think like he deserves this 100%. Just so impressive. His first time pitching professionally. Remember, he did not pitch in the pros at all last year. And just like the velo jump from like 91 to 98 and the secondary stuff coming along the way that it has is just so impressive. So he gets my vote. I will just say, like, yeah, Eduardo Rivera was also really outstanding before he got called up to Double-A. And I actually would say that if it wasn't for Tolle, I do think I probably would give this to Isaac Stebbins. I think he's been probably consistently the best bullpen arm in the Red Sox minor league system this year, and so he deserves to be shouted out for that reason. But I'll turn it over to Hunter.
100% shout out to Isaac Stebbins. 173 ERA, 3-0, 7 for 7 on save opportunities. He's been phenomenal. I'm very happy that you gave him the quick little shout out because I was worried he would kind of be the forgotten guy in this. I agree Payton Tolle is kind of the obvious choice here, which is crazy to say considering like Eduardo Rodriguez beats him in most counting stats. He had a lower ERA, lower batting average against, lower whip. But then you look at some of the other numbers. Payton Tolle's strikeout per 9 was, I believe, slightly higher. His walk per 9 was significantly lower. And just the overall dominance, like we saw a stretch from Rivera where he was absurd, like a 4 or 5 game stretch where Eduardo Rivera was just mowing down opponents. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I know you both said it. And you can't just take away games. Like that's not how sports work. But looking outside of that first start, it was just unfair to go up against Payton Tolle. Like you genuinely kind of felt bad for teams to have to deal with him. And something we talked about a little bit last year was how few people in the system, not that this is like a massive benchmark, but how few people in the system threw 100. I don't remember how many people. I remember David Sandlin was on the list, but there were not a lot of people to throw 100 last year. I don't think anyone in the majors did it. And then this year, obviously, Aroldis Chapman is there. I believe Garrett Crochet hit 100 against the Yankees.
I think Jordan Hicks hit 100 too.
Jordan Hicks, yes, Jordan Hicks did. I think like his first pitch, he hit 100. I know he did in AAA at least. And I am
Tanner Houck apparently.
I can't believe people thought he actually hit 100. Dude was sitting at like 92 all game and then had 102 mile an hour pitch. And they were like, oh, I am 100% convinced Payton Tolle will hit 100. Maybe not this year, but at some point. The jump has been ridiculous. He mentioned it as something that he wants to do. And just going from sitting 91 to hitting 98.9 this year, like that just blows my mind to do that in 1 year, that much of a difference. And I know that's technically not like a accounting stat, which is probably what these awards should be more about is what they do on the field, stat wise. But it's been the overall improvement from Payton Tolle. Like we've seen the fastball velo jump. We've seen the secondary pitches start to look better. We've seen him not walk anybody all year. It's all been so good. So despite the fact that Eduardo Rivera beats him in a couple categories, despite the fact that, like Jake said, Isaac Stebbins has been the best relief pitcher in the system. Payton Tolle's just been on a different level. Like there's a reason Sox Prospects has him as their number 1 prospect, not counting Meyer and Roman Anthony. There's a reason Baseball America put him in the top 100 a month ago, and there's a reason Pipeline put him in the top 100 3 days ago. And we're going to just continue to see that climb. He's someone that if he isn't in the majors by the end of the year, which when it would not completely shock me if he is, I think he'll go into next year as like a top 20 prospect in baseball. I think the stock's just going to keep rising. I think everyone in baseball is going to fall in love with him from an analytics standpoint, from the improvements he's made. So yeah, it's Payton Tolle pretty easily, which is wild considering how good the other options have been.
And I'm sure as nobody is surprised, Payton Tolle got the majority of the listener vote. 62%, 24% went to Eduardo Rivera. Stevens or Stebbins? Or am I just totally off?
Isaac Stebbins.
Stebbins, yeah, close enough. 10% for Stebbins, and then Albert Feliz with another write-in vote. Yeah, Big Al.
Eligible in both categories.
Only person to get votes in multiple categories.
Amazing. That's an accomplishment in and of itself.
If Big Al's still kicking around next year, I will ask Liam Carroll if we can get a Big Al spring training. If we get Liam Carroll on the spring training, we need to ask him, can we get a Big Al Major League spring training game where he plays all 9 innings and 1 inning at every position?
Let's get a Big Al cameo. That's what I want.
Yeah.
If we get Liam Carroll on during spring training, we need to find a way for him to get Big Al in the video.
Yes, absolutely. Please make it happen.
We need a Big Al, pull. I mean, Will Ferrell did it, right? If he can do it, Big Al can do it. Like, come on. Like, how hard can it be? Outside of the fact that they don't have to worry about if Will Ferrell gets hurt, it's not like they care much. But no, I would like to see Big Al with that. Last 2 awards. The single A best position player of the first half. The candidates were Fraley Encarnacion, Justin Gonzalez, and Nathaniel Uton, and his skinnier than a pencil body. And I think Melly Taylor said 3% body fat, more like -3%, but that's besides the point. Who's going first? Jake, you. Is it Jake's turn to go first?
No, it's you.
Is it I thought I just went first.
No, you did. Never mind.
Yeah.
All right. I really want to pick Justin Gonzalez for this. I really do. I just don't think he deserves it. Compared to the guy who I think deserves it, which is Fraley Encarnacion, who obviously moved up. But Fraley Encarnacion was leading the league in all of these different categories when he got moved up. 10 home runs. It's very hard to hit 10 home runs in Salem in those ballparks in the first part of the year. 303 average, 363 on base, 566 slugging, 928 OPS. I just think those are legitimately superhuman numbers for Salem in the first 2 months of the year. And he was, I think, had been player of the week and was doing all of this crazy stuff. And he's also played all around the diamond. He hasn't really played. I don't think he played any shortstop really, because again, he was there kind of the same time that Franklin Arias was there, but playing a lot of third base, mixing in time at first base to second base, moving all around the infield, that kind of thing. So, I think, and Nathaniel Uton is awesome. He's a clutch hitter, does a lot of things really well. A big fan of him. And again, I'm hoping that in the future it's one of these things with Justin Gonzalez where it's he's the obvious answer, that he's the best. He deserves to win the player of the year. Maybe at the end of the season, he's the player of the year for Salem. But I just look at what Fraley Encarnacion did, and I can't give it to anybody else. He was absolutely outstanding for the first month and a half of the year and earned that promotion up to Greenville.
I think if we were talking about this award, if we did these awards in on August 7th, I think this would be a very different conversation. Because we've seen Nathaniel Uton, he was not good the first month of the season, and he's been so much better since then. Yesterday, he had a pinch hit walk-off single in game 1 of a doubleheader, and then the next game he had 2 hits, a stolen base, an RBI. He's very clearly turned things around, and he's putting up much better numbers. Justin Gonzalez has been awesome since getting promoted. Maybe the power numbers aren't as crazy as people were hoping, but he's also an 18-year-old playing in very pitcher-friendly ballparks. The exit velocity has been phenomenal. He's had a lot of balls that would be out at different ballparks. And a big thing with him is just, I don't know how many players I've seen with as good of an eye at even close to as young of an age as him. It's kind of like him and Roman Anthony are in their own category there. Literally just yesterday, there was an at-bat for Justin Gonzalez where he struck out looking, and 2 of the 3 strikes were very clear balls that the ump called strikes, and he did not let his disappointment go unknown. And it's one of those things where, for one thing, these are also minor league umpires. But if he's an established major league veteran and this is a major league game, he's someone that I think will it's kind of like people say with Mike Trout. Sometimes the ump will look to Mike Trout like, oh well, if Mike Trout didn't swing, it was clearly a ball. I feel like that's kind of what Justin Gonzalez will be if he gets to a big status in the majors. Just because of how good his eye is, it's absurd to think about an 18-year-old with the power he has to be as patient as he is. And I mean, that's shown. He has a 269 average, which is very solid, and a 370 on base percentage, which is phenomenal. He's stolen bases at a much better clip than I thought he would. He's playing good enough defense. He's made a couple of mistakes out there, but he's looked really good in the outfield for the most part. But I agree with Jake. It's just Fraley Encarnacion was unreal. He played 45 games there, and just the numbers were ridiculous. Like Jake said, he was leading in a ton of categories. I think he was like second in doubles, second in homers, first in RBIs, like second in average, first in slugging percentage. Like it was all Fraley Encarnacion at the top of the leaderboard for the league. So again, I think if we gave it a couple more weeks, U10 and Gonzalez would make this a very serious race, but Fraley Encarnacion was just too good the first 2 months of the season to not get this award.
So I'll just preface this that Fraley and Justin Gonzalez got all of the votes, and the difference between them was 1 vote, which is good because I don't have to worry about them that vote deciding it, because I'm taking a write-in option, and I don't care that he didn't play a lot of games. I'm taking Franklin Arias. I don't care. I don't care.
I want to point out that Derrik's the one that came up with the options.
Yes.
I was just going to say, you picked the options.
I did this for a reason, though, because to be completely fair, I knew both of you weren't going to pick Arias because he only played like 19 games. And I didn't want Arias to win it based off I vote for him, the listener vote gives. Yeah, exactly. Right. And to be fair, like, he only played 19 games and they were an amazing, 19 games. But I mean, he had 27 hits in 19 games. Like, come on, right? But it's only 19 games, and I think that, like, I'm gonna give him that recognition of just how absurd that run was. On the listener vote, Justin Gonzalez got 51.7%. Fraley Encarnacion got 48.3%. 1 vote was the difference there for the two of them. So Fraley will win the award. And in all honesty, if I was picking between the two of them, I would have probably leaned Fraley. But so, I mean, it wouldn't have really mattered because then it would be 3 for Fraley and 1 for Justin Gonzalez. But I told myself going into this, I'm picking Franklin Arias regardless. And also, too, I wasn't picking him for Greenville. So I felt like he needed to be recognized in this way of officially getting a vote. So I'm taking Franklin Arias. Just absurd start to the year for him.
For sure.
And, yeah. Now, our last award.
Wait, who won?
Fraley.
Fraley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fraley.
Okay.
Our last award.
I might have missed that.
Our last award, best pitcher of the first half for Salem, is the options are Blake Aida, Austin Ehrlicher. That still does not sound great. He licks the air. That's kind of weird.
Just keep talking. Just keep talking.
I mean, dogs do it. I mean, they stick their head out of windows.
Focus. Get off this. Who was the third one? Say it.
Shea Sprague.
That's why he was.
There we go.
Because he didn't. Okay, you got it. You got it.
You got it. You did.
I totally don't have it written down.
Yeah.
Actually, wrote it down for once, or twice because I wrote it down last week as well. So I made sure to write it down. But those are the 3 candidates: Blake Aida, Austin Ehrlicher, and Shea Sprague. I'll hand it over to Hunter.
I'm worried about my perfect streak. I've gotten everyone right so far, and I feel like this is a one that I might end up getting wrong, but I'm going Austin Ehrlicher. I think all 3 options have been solid. No one's been like dominant in single A outside of like Brandon Clark, but he pitched 3 games there. Blake Aida had some phenomenal outings. And a big plus for him is he would tend to go like 5 innings, which is awesome. But he also had some difficult outings. Same thing with Shea Sprague. The first like 3 or 4 starts or 3 or 4 outings for him were really rough. And then he dominated for a while. Then he got called up to high A for 1 start, went back down to single A, got rocked that outing, and then he's been great since then. He's back up in high A looking great. But Ehrlicher's just been phenomenal. 44 2/3 innings, 3.22 ERA, which I believe leads the team for anyone over like 20 innings. 53 strikeouts. He's just been very good. They've had him start games. They've had him come in and out of the bullpen. Sub 2 batting average against. We always talk about Salem being a pitcher's park, but there's been no like crazy dominant performance this year again outside of like Brandon Clark. But Ehrlicher's been the closest thing to that. He tends to go out there and put together really good outings. And he's the guy that I think when he's in the game, I feel like I'm most comfortable with whatever Salem's offense has going on. That has been an offense that has struggled at times this year. And I always feel like they at least have a chance to win with him on the mound. Like it could be the 4th inning and the offense is 1 hit, but I'm like, as long as Austin Ehrlicher's out there, this game's not going to get away from them. And yeah, I'm worried that he is. None of these guys are massive names, which I think will help a little bit. But I feel like he might be the most obscure of the names. So I'm worried about how the voting goes for some other people. But yeah, I'm going Ehrlicher, and I do want to give a small shout out to Michael Sansone, who was very good for them in a short dose, and Matt McShane, who I think if he pitched there a little bit longer would have been in the running, but he only got 14 innings.
I'll just I'm on board with kind of everything Hunter said. I'm also going with Ehrlicher. Start looking in the air, people. Let's go. Get on it.
No.
Air.
I'm just gonna.
Air. The same thing Angel Reese hits whenever she shoots.
Okay. Wow. Angel Reese catching straight
lately. I don't want to hear that. She's been on fire.
Well, she's
not do this.
Hey, she can handle it. She's a grown woman. She's
okay.
a good basketball player.
This show has come to a screeching halt. Like, is this like the?
But she shoots some air balls.
This is wow. Anyway, I respect these choices. I do. I am not going to go for Ehrlicher. I'm going to go with Blake Aida. I know that like he's had some inconsistency, but I look at his numbers and I look at the kind of the way that I think he was for a lot of the starts this year. I think that they want guys to throw strikes, and I think that that's something that he's been so good at this season. That in Salem, in 51 innings, he only had 9 walks, 45 strikeouts. Obviously, that's a lower number, but like 1.6 walks per 9 and a 5 strikeout to walk weight ratio is really outstanding for that level. And I think again that shows me that he has a future, whether it's going to be in the bullpen or as a starter. The Red Sox, obviously, they drafted him last year. He was a 6th-round pick. They really believe in him. He's one of these big guys, 6'4". So I'm a big fan of Blake Aida's, and I think that he's my pick over the other guys just because of that control factor, which I just think is so critical, especially at the early level of the minors.
All right, well, this one's going to get interesting. Austin Ehrlicher had 10.3% of the vote. Shea Sprague had 27.6%, and Blake Aida had 62%. So we're deadlocked at 2. What's the tiebreaker?
I think that I think, in my opinion, you guys like the 2 of your votes being for that means more than me and the public, I guess. So I would say we give it to Ehrlicher.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
You go with that?
I think if the public vote was like 100%, I think that would sway more. Like if it was just every single person voted for Aida, but yeah. Also, I'm not going to disagree with me getting the perfect record.
No.
I do wonder though, like out of the people who picked Aida, like how many of them would have had like Ehrlicher as their second choice, or like the people who
Right.
picked
Yeah.
Yeah, if they
did
were
like
ranking, yeah.
rank choice.
or like like the people who picked Sprague, like would they have had, would they have picked if they only had those two to pick from?
Yeah.
So that would have maybe changed the voting a little bit with that. But I mean, Aida still had the majority, right? He still had 62%. But Austin Ehrlicher gets it. Good for him. He's going to forever be a meme in my head, but that's okay. Shout out. Last couple things of business. Hunter, you were in not in Portland. You saw Portland play. You didn't go to Portland, but Portland was in town. You made the trip. What do you have for the kind of mini series they had?
Yeah, 3-game series against Reading. Not great the first 2 games. Specifically the second game, the offense just decided to not show up. And then the third game, 5:15 start. There was an hour rain delay, so it didn't start till 6:15. And then they went into 13 innings. So I got at the ballpark at like 2:45, and I didn't leave until like 10:30. Very long day. A lot of hot dogs. I have started a new tradition where every game I will sneak out of the press box and go get banana split Dippin' Dots and just go sit in the stands for like 2 innings and just watch the game in the stands, because I miss watching games from the stands. It's fun. It's a much different perspective than sitting in a usually not air conditioned press box. And kind of like when I'm in the reason I sit in the press box is because I'm also watching all the other games and I'm typing up stuff for work on the computer. And I just said screw it in game 1 of the series and was like, turn everything off, like close the laptop, don't look at your phone for 2 innings and just go enjoy the game. And it's just such a different perspective. It's great to just go there and really just pay attention to every little detail of the game and listen to the crowd and just be involved. And also the banana split Dippin' Dots are great. But it's kind of the story of Portland this year was the offense had its moments. But for the main part, they were just absolutely carried by the pitching staff. Marvin Alcantara went 3 for 7. It's been good to see him start to pick things up in AA. It was really cool to see or to hear Liam Carroll talk about how much he loves Marvin Alcantara. It is important to note he's only 20 and already in AA. He's never like dominated offensively. He has very little power. So it is interesting to see how quickly he's gotten to AA. That's one of those things where I wonder if it's the Red Sox seeing something in him, or if it's more, hey, this guy's really good defensively, can play multiple positions, and he's got good speed. And he doesn't strike out a ton. He makes contact. So is it a case of them seeing him as, hey, this guy can sit in AA for 3 years? Or is it a case of them seeing him as a legitimate prospect that they want to focus on things with? Ronald Rosario has a hit in 11 of his last 12 games. Started off the year really slow. He was at like 160 mid June. He's hitting 400. He's slashing 400, 432, 514 in July. 212, 280, 290 on the season. He came in as so in the bottom or in the top of the 8th inning, Max Ferguson pinch ran for Brooks Brandon, who was the starting catcher for the game. And then Rosario obviously came in to catch after that. Ended up getting 2 at-bats because the game went into 13 innings. Struck out in the first one, but then in the second one, in the top of the 11th, I believe it was, 2-run homer. Thought the game was over. Bottom of the 11th, someone for them hit a 2-run homer. Just terrorizing me at that point. But it's been really fun to see him figure things out. The Red Sox are terrifyingly shallow when it comes to catching depth in the minors. So seeing a 22-year-old in AA figuring things out, I think is very important. They need guys who can at least be seen as potential major league depth at some point. So him figuring things out, I think, is a bigger development than a lot of people might realize, because the numbers still aren't great, but it's getting better. Also, something that stood out to me was his defense. The guy that was the catcher, I think his name was like Paul McIntosh or something, for Reading, absolutely mashes, like terrifying with the bat. But my lord, his defense was terrible. Drew Earhart, who had 0 steals on the year, stole 2 bases in the one game because the guy threw absolute lollipops down to second. He couldn't really seem to handle pitches if they were in the dirt. And it was impressive to see the difference between him and Ronald Rosario. Just, he looks like such a professional behind the plate. He was sliding to the side to stop curveballs in the dirt. He was keeping runners honest. It's such an underrated part of catching, especially in the minor leagues. If you have someone that can do that, it just makes a world of a difference for your pitchers. And then, speaking of the pitchers, Connolly early, 5 2/3, struck out 6, didn't walk anyone, gave up 1 run on 3 hits. I've yet to see a Connolly early outing live where I didn't walk away just astounded by how good he is. Even when he doesn't put up ridiculous numbers, it's just, he looks so comfortable out there. In every start, he has a couple pitches where he just makes a hitter look completely lost. He never really seems to get completely rattled. Like, on very rare occasions does he just kind of give up hit after hit after hit after hit. It's usually like a walk here, a bloop single. Maybe he'll end up giving up a home run that really crushes him. But there's never just like those outings where it's like, man, the whole lineup had him figured out. He's absolutely a major league pitcher. Like, this is a guy who will have a career in the majors. Whether it's with the Red Sox or not, we don't know, but he's turned himself into such an intriguing piece. David Sandlin piggybacked for Payton Tolle, and just, he's done that a couple times this year. 4 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, only struck out 1 batter, which is like very un-David Sandlin. But it was good to see him not give up damage, because I think if you told me Sandlin struck out 1 guy through 4 innings, I would be scared to hear the rest of the stat line. But he was giving up a lot of weak contact. He was clearly confusing hitters. They were just kind of getting pieces of balls. But again, nothing was really hard hit. It's good to see that he has succeeded no matter what they've done with him this year. He doesn't seem to be rattled, whether he's starting, whether he's coming in for 4 innings out of the bullpen, because he's done that a couple times this year, and he's looked really good in all of his piggyback roles. And I think that that's a case of Portland having too many pitchers and being comfortable with Sandlin out of the bullpen. Like, they've done that with him a few times this year. So I think at this point, they're kind of like, hey, someone's going to have to piggyback every once in a while. And they know that David Sandlin can handle that. And then it was so cool to get to see Payton Tolle live. He gave up 3 runs, but just 1 were earned. The defense did him negative favors in the first inning. 2 errors, a 3rd error that got called back. No one really knew what happened. But the guy on second tried to steal third, and I don't remember if it was Rosario or Brannon overthrew the third baseman, and then the guy scored. But then the umpire sent the guy back to second, and no one in the entire stadium seemed to know what happened. I don't know if like the hitter called time before the pitch or something. I don't know. But like, it couldn't have been interference because the batter wasn't called out. I don't know. But either way, 3 runs in 4 innings, only 1 earned, 3 hits, struck out 5, walked 1. He's been so good since going to Double-A. Obviously, I mentioned it a few times. I got to talk to him before the game on Sunday, so it was after his start. And first off, don't be that big. Don't be that massive of a human being. Literally, in the picture, he cast a shadow on me. Like, it genuinely looks like I'm standing behind a building because half of my body is just covered in a shadow. I would have been terrified if he wasn't the nicest human being in the world. Like, just immediately comes over. He's apparently told a joke, or Emma Tiedemann, the Portland broadcaster, told a joke because he was laughing very hard. He was very open to talk. It was a 15-minute interview. I was not expecting it to be 15 minutes, and it absolutely could have gone longer because there's a couple things I kind of just forgot to ask about. But blown away with how seriously he clearly takes baseball, but how he also very clearly has fun with it. Like, he understands it's a game, and he's willing to joke about himself and joke about things, but he also is a guy who you're 100% sure is going to work his ass off. I mean, this was the day after his start, and when he came up to me, drenched in sweat, like, when he shook my hand, it was just water. Like, clearly just going after it before the game. And I asked him about, reaching the top 100 status. I asked him about the improvements on his pitches. And one thing I asked him about was the secondary pitches, because I said, we talked about it on this podcast about how he could probably go to the majors right now and be a legitimate bullpen piece just off the strength of the fastball. But the big thing that he's been knocked for in all media outlets has been, oh, well, the secondary stuff's not there yet. Over his last 2 games, he has 10 strikeouts. 9 of them have come off secondary pitches. He had 1 strikeout last game that came off the fastball. Everything else has been slider, mainly slider. And it's looked very good recently. And I asked him about the development on those. And again, it's just, he takes it all so seriously. He wants to be so good. And like, he has the goal of hitting 100 on his fastball, and he genuinely thinks he'll be able to get there. But he also has the goal of mastering the secondary pitches and just becoming a complete all around pitcher. And it's been impressive to see him make those improvements so quickly. Like, when he got to Portland, that was the big thing, was, oh, well, the secondary stuff. And we've seen him have 0 issues with it in his last few outings. So yeah, I was very happy I got to talk to him. I had a couple other interviews that did not happen just because it rained the first 2. So the first day I knew I wasn't going to get any interviews because it was coming off the All-Star break. It was a 3-game series. Like, they just had way too much going on. And then the next 2 games, there was rain before each game. So I was worried I wasn't going to get any interviews. Happy I got Tolle. I was also going to talk to Brooks Brannon. I was going to talk to the Earhards, and I was going to talk to James Tibbs. And that was someone that got brought up to me a lot by players, by coaches, by scouts, by everyone, how well he's taken his situation. He comes here in the Rafael Devers trade, which is already, he's one of the big pieces in the trade for a cornerstone player that the fans loved. And then literally from the second he got traded, from the second that trade was announced, there have been tons of people, including us, saying like, oh, well, maybe they'll flip him. Like, this is a guy who might not be here very long. And it hasn't affected him. He's apparently taking it all in stride. Apparently he jokes about it with his teammates. Like, oh man, why are you even the one guy said to me, like, somebody said to him, why is he packing up his stuff to go to the next place? Cause he's just going to be leaving tomorrow anyway. Like, they hear it as much as they try to not hear it. They're going to hear the chatter. They're going to hear the talk. And it's just good to see that he hasn't let it get to him. He's at a new level in a new organization, with dealing with being traded and then also being in current trade rumors. So I'm impressed with the fact that he has been able to perform. Obviously he has struggled recently, but again, that's just a thing that Portland as a whole has done. They had a couple big hits this series, but especially those first 2 games, the offense was basically non-existent. And then, I mean, even the last game, it was 1-1 going into the 11th inning, and then Rosario hit the 2-run homer, and then I believe the final score was 4-3 after 13 innings. Zach Earhart hit a homer in the second inning, and then Paul McIntosh, the catcher that mashes, hit a home run in the bottom of the second inning, and then neither team scored again until the 11th. So it was just a heavy pitching game, and just a testament to how good Portland's pitching has been all year.
So obviously, as always, great work, Hunter. It feels like every single time you go on one of these kind of whenever Portland's in town or whoever it is somewhat in town, or you're there wherever they're playing, whether it's Portland, Worcester earlier in the year, anywhere else. Feels like we always get some nice scoops from that. I'll hand it over to Jake, though. Do we have a little bit of a FCL DSL minute before we wrap up?
Sure. So D'Angelo Ortiz had a big week. 385, 579 on base. He's still waiting for his first FCL home run, but on the season, 268 average, 379 on base, just a 302 slug. So he has some work to do there. Really good week for Jesus Trevioso. He made 2 starts this week, 6 in the third innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 hit by pitches, but 49 strikeouts and 34 in 2/3 innings with a 3.12 ERA for FCL so far. DSL, they had their all-star game. There were 3 guys from the Red Sox that were named to the team initially: Hector Ramos, Dorian Soto, and Williams Montero. Unfortunately, Dorian Soto is dealing with a little bit of an injury, so he had to be replaced. He was replaced by somebody on the Red Sox. That was Franklin Primera. And in the DSL all-star game, he's a catcher, which is always exciting to hear good stuff from a catcher. In the DSL All-Star game, he hit his first professional home run. So congratulations to Franklin Primera, who is a Venezuelan catcher. That is quite a spot to hit your first professional home run.
Definitely. I will update quickly. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Xavier Edwards didn't have any barrels and he hit one. I think we mentioned it last week. He also hit a homer, so now he's now got 2 career home runs. So he's now doubled up on me. He's extended the lead. He's doubled the lead on me for Major League home runs. Maybe one day
you got time. You got time.
Yeah,
I
got time. Also, I'm just going to unanimous, not even unanimous. I myself exclusively naming Yoiker Fajardo as FCL pitcher of the first half. I'm doing that. No guest the prospect this week. That will return in 2 weeks' time, as Jake will be missing next week's show with us. But Hunter and I will hold it down, lay down the smackdown and some tag team action, raw and unfiltered.
Yes, you'll get all your wrestling references on this show next week while I am watching Major League Baseball in a city that's not Boston.
I heard the Brewers have some good nachos.
So you gave it away. Thanks, Derrik. Congrats.
Just out here doxing the guy.
You're doxing me. Thank you. Appreciate
it. Well, I mean, I heard they have good nachos.
Okay.
To be fair, he could have just been talking about. He could have just in general, like I've heard Tampa Bay has really good pizza. He could have just been throwing out a random.
The Rays actually have like a nice little area behind center field where they actually have like a bunch of food places that are
at the Steinbrenner Field or
at the Trop.
At the Trop, yeah.
I'm actually going to Steinbrenner on August 1st for Dodgers Rays, and I think Kershaw's scheduled to pitch if everything lines up correctly. So it's either Kershaw or if they move things up a day, Ohtani would pitch. Would be either or. I'll take either.
I'm not going to complain about either.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Emmett Sheehan getting pushed back a day, I will be happy. Nothing against Emmett Sheehan, but you're not Clayton Kershaw, Shohei Ohtani. So just saying. With that, though, we're going to wrap it up. We'll be back next week with kind of a more regular minor league show. So for Jake and Hunter, as always, my name is Derrik. Thanks for tuning in to the Pesky Report. And next episode is the Big 500. So see you next time.